Hey y'all, welcome here to the Technical Fowl podcast hosted by the Reflector. You're here for our March Madness special, our bracket special. We're going to fill out a bracket. All three of us, one bracket. So how this is going to work is there's three of us. So when we go to pick games, 2v1 majority rules, except in the first round, we each get one veto where we can overrule the majority and our pick goes through. Should be a ton of fun. I'm here once again with JP on my right, my
What's
dog.
up, guys?
And then Sanders on my left. He's going to be working us through the bracket. But personally, I'm really excited. I don't know about y'all guys. This is one of my favorite weeks of the year. Should be a great time.
Yeah, this is very giddy. Very, very giddy times. Kind of wish I was on spring break, so the only thing I could think about was
Agreed.
this tournament. I think the last 2 or 3 years we've been on spring break the first week of the tournament, so that's been pretty electric. But unfortunately, we're coming back from spring break, so I have 2 tests on a week where March Madness is starting.
That's so tough.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting week to say the least.
I will be watching.
But I'm excited. Let's pick a good bracket here.
Yeah, I'll be watching in class.
I mean, I will as well. I won't be able to watch during the test. I think I'll take the test instead of watch.
I
But
think it's
Yeah,
probably a good
that's
call.
probably
But just take the test really quick. You don't miss much action.
also true.
So we're gonna get started with the South region, right? So our first matchup is the 1 seed Auburn versus the 16 seed. It will either be Alabama State or St. Francis. I don't really know if there's much to break down in this.
There's actually a ton. to
Okay,
break down in
JP
this.
has been talking off air about the Alabama State upset and how it's going to happen, and I'm really interested to see you kind of break this one down. So
I think if there's any team that could get upset in the first round, respectfully, it's gonna be Auburn.
any team or any 1 seed?
Yeah, 1 seed.
Okay.
I apologize.
Auburn is the most likely
likely
team
team
to
to
get
get
upset
upset in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, no. If there's any 1 seed, as we talked about in the last episode, they've lost 3 of their last 4.
Mhm.
The scoring production hasn't really been there.
Yeah.
We've seen good performances from Janai Broom, but
Not shot the ball well as a group, I don't feel like.
yeah, I would argue Pettiford has played not very good. Denver Jones has had some good games. Kelly not as well. I really, really like Alabama State to beat St. Francis in the first 4 game.
No disrespect to St. Francis,
Yeah.
unless there is disrespect.
Well, St.
but-
Francis is the worst team in terms of Kim Pom ranking. And
Feels kind of disrespectful.
They are 311 in Kim Pom. For context, there are 364 teams.
Man, our listeners are going to have that memorized by the time we get out of basketball season.
yeah,
JP he's reinforcing that. This
They're
is an
also-
educational podcast. You didn't know you were going to walk away learning something.
Absolutely. They're also the only team with a losing record in the bracket.
What was their conference seating? Do you know?
That's a good question. I would assume they were probably in a bid, not a bid stealer, but not the 1 seed as a.
I don't think they were, but also, I mean, I
I just,
couldn't even tell you what conference they're in. Not gonna.
I can't imagine. It's impressive if they've finished. You said they're below 500. If they were had a good conference schedule and they were just that bad out of conference, that's kind of impressive.
They were the number. Schubert. Okay, cool. Number 3 seed.
Okay, cool.
Number 2 seed. Outlier. Number 3 seed.
Let's
Yep.
assume Alabama State wins, beat St. Francis.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that. I do want to preface that this is probably like a 99.95% chance that Alabama State will beat Auburn, but
Wait,
No.
that they will?
nah, reverse that.
Okay.
That Auburn would beat Alabama State. But if there's anyone that would happen, it would be this one, unless I guess Cooper Flag doesn't play, and then Duke for some reason plays bad without Cooper Flag, which they haven't shown that they
are
would
going
do.
to. Also, all signs point to Cooper Flag being full steam ahead.
Yeah. So
That's, save it for later, guys.
personally, I pick Auburn. Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna have to go with Auburn here.
All right, Sanders, your pick does not matter, but please pick.
Unless I veto it, which I will not be doing.
Okay.
Fair.
I will be going with Auburn.
Could matter a lot.
I've got Auburn winning this game. I don't think it will be close. I do not expect to see a repeat of the recent trend of 1s losing to 16s. I know Auburn has lost 3 out of the last 4, but that has been to SEC level competition and not
Yeah.
to Alabama State.
they've not even necessarily played bad in losing 3 out of the last 4. They've just not been up to the same standard. It's not been great, but I'm not going
that is
like
fair.
this
They
team
haven't
is
been playing
lost.
bad. They have
This
not
team
been
is
playing
not
bad.
lost.
They just
It's
played
just
Florida, top 10 A&M, and top 10 Alabama. That's not losing 3 games to those 3 teams. And
they lost Tennessee, not Florida. Florida was earlier on in the season,
thank you.
but
So
they have
top
lost
10
to Florida.
Tennessee, top 10 A&M, top 10 Alabama. I'm actually talking myself out of being worried about Auburn. So we'll get to that later. Our next matchup is the 8 versus 9. You got Louisville versus Creighton.
Yeah, I mean, 8-9 matchups are always obviously pretty intriguing. I do feel like Louisville got underseeded here. I'm pretty surprised they weren't higher than an 8 seed. Kind of looking at their metrics,
Sure.
they graded out pretty well. Wouldn't have been surprised to see them as a 6. That being said, I don't really know how I feel about Louisville as a whole. I'm scrolling here to find Louisville guys.
So
So I'm kind of rambling.
Hold up, can we please explain? Jack has done something very impressive. He put together team profiles for the 30 at-large team. No, the 30 at-large teams.
Give or take. I mean, that's
It's like 30 pages.
it's not 30 pages.
It's
I have a
over 20.
lot.
It's over 20 pages. And so watching him scroll through
It's a
to
tough find.
try and find teams,
Control F on the iPad there.
it's gonna be the
Can I
highlight of
actually?
my night.
I don't think.
Yeah, that's okay. Anyway,
I can pull it up on my laptop and you can read it. I can control it from my laptop.
I'm gonna make this work
Okay.
personally out of pride, but I
Okay.
appreciate the offer.
It's just I'm really looking forward to watching you search the entire night. Continue with your Louisville.
I just don't know how to feel about Louisville, to be honest. Impressive performance in the ACC, in the ACC regular season, and also in the conference tournament, making the finals. They did lose to Duke, obviously, but not crazy impressive out of conference games. Sorry, just got some feedback there, whatever you want to call it. They went 0-4 in the SEC in out of conference play. Lost to Tennessee, lost to OU, lost to Ole Miss, lost at Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't know how good this team actually is, I guess, going into this thing. I like Chucky Hepburn. I like Terrence Edwards. Both good guards, can score, can make plays. Regardless, a very good year for Louisville basketball. I'm kind of rambling here, but I don't know what to expect here.
Yeah, you get the 2 teams that lost in their conference title game. Louisville was favored by 2.5. I think this is Louisville got underseeded here, but then when they get underseeded, they got a bad matchup. In Creighton.
Agreed.
Creighton is a team that's had a lot of success in March. Coach McDermott has Kalkbrenner, who's been there for 7 years. Really been there for four straight years, winning Big East Defensive Player of the Year.
Wildly impressive.
And he's no easy task to deal with. I think underseeded, but then they get a bad matchup. In my opinion, I'd pick Creighton. I know that Jack and Jackson are going to pick Creighton again. You should tell that story again.
Yeah, I have a friend, Jackson Carter. Shout out to him. Every year we do a bracket we call Metro Shubin. Why? Couldn't tell you, but we pick Creighton to win it every year, no matter how good or bad they are. So solely for that reason, Creighton kind of has a soft spot in my heart. Always hope they do well, and I also would probably have to pick Creighton here. Creighton's an interesting team. They don't foul at all defensively. And they're really just Ryan Kalkbrenner is their team.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they don't have other players. Stephen Ashworth, their point guard, can make plays. Jeremiah Neal's pretty good. He brings some athleticism to a team that honestly doesn't have a ton.
This is not the Creighton teams that we've seen the past 3 years where there's a complimentary piece to Kalkbrenner.
No.
It's definitely a Kalkbrenner show.
I don't want to discredit Stephen Ashworth, but it really does feel like all the other guys get theirs because of how much gravity Kalkbrenner has and how much you have to account for him. Just feels like this is a year if you can shut down Kalkbrenner inside, which is very hard to do. But if you can do it, you're going to win the game. I just don't think Louisville's going to be the team to do that.
So 2 picks for Creighton. Sanders,
also
veto.
Also picking Creighton.
Okay,
So
well,
will
3-0
not be-
sweep there.
Not be using the veto there. Our next matchup, hold on, let me get Creighton in here, will be Michigan versus UC San Diego.
Big matchup.
I'm a big UC San Diego hater. Their win
That's
last
not
night.
fair, though. That's not fair.
Their win last night knocked out my UC Irvine Anteaters, and I'm upset about that. All right, UC San Diego was going to be an at-large bid. They should have intentionally lost. Then the Big West could have had 2 teams in the tourney.
The Big West debatably should have had 2 teams, regardless, depending on
Correct.
Europe.
I
What
also
you
don't
think.
like intentionally losing your
Oh,
conference
I'm joking,
championship.
I'm
Because they maybe wouldn't have got in. I know.
No,
you're
I
joking.
think UC
A
San
conference
Diego,
championship.
I would
forever.
never trust after what happened to like an Indiana State a couple
Yeah.
years ago.
last year.
Was that
Well,
really last year?
Was it not? It has.
I think
to
it
be.
was last year.
It was last year. It was last year.
But yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people kind of before we got the draws were like, I really like UC San Diego. I expect them to make noise, make a run, and then they draw Michigan, which is a bad draw for Michigan, honestly, just
Mhm.
in terms of quality of 12 seed. But I really think it's a bad draw for UC San Diego as well. Not great size on the team. Their best player, Tate Jones, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I apologize if not. Is 20-point per game scorer, can get his own, but he's more of a slasher, has to guard big sometimes, and I just don't know if
Yeah, he's only 6'6".
I don't know if Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf is the matchup he really was hoping for, or is a
Definitely
matchup
not.
he can thrive in. An interesting thing, though, we'll say, kind of flip side, Michigan loves to turn the ball over. Has had turnover problems all year, and UC San Diego forces 16 turnovers a game. So that will be something to look at, is if that UC San Diego can turn Michigan over and get out running before Michigan can kind of establish their bigs defensively and beat them kind of to the punch, it could get interesting. I'm kind of back and forth on this one. Sanders, why don't you give us your pick here first?
My pick first.
Yeah.
I feel bad for this one, but I think I'm gonna go with an upset here.
Okay.
I think UC San Diego, a really good team out of the Big West. The really fun watching them play last night, and they beat what I think is a good UC Irvine team. So like that, maybe that's not good logic, but I think I'm gonna have to go with UC San Diego getting a pretty big upset here. I also 12-5 upsets are not super uncommon.
True.
Pretty regular. So yeah.
They 5 seeds have won 64.7% of the time, so around 36%.
Michigan's a 2.5-point favorite here.
Yeah, Michigan a 2.5 point favorite. I do want to mention it feels almost like disrespect towards Michigan. They just made a
I
really
agree.
good run through the Big Ten tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They beat some really good teams, some teams above them. Wisconsin, Purdue, and Maryland are all higher seeds than them. And then they come into this game against UC San Diego, which is a good team, but they're only favored by 2.5. They have a much better matchup in terms of Golden and Wolf versus San Diego's size. Personally, I would pick Michigan, and with a 2.5 spread, I would pick them to cover easily. But I do think, Vegas thinks it's going to be an interesting game. I think a lot of eyes are going to be on this game for the Big Ten champs, but I'm going to go with Michigan personally.
All right, Jack.
I think I'm going to have to go Michigan as well. Partially because I do straight up think Michigan's going to win the game, obviously. But it's like a good fade opportunity. We're going to see a lot of people pick UC San Diego here.
Definitely.
So if we're right on Michigan, that'll give us, a leg up.
Are we vetoing that, Sanders?
No, this is not worthy of my
Not
veto.
where is
If it was
coming
UC Irvine, would you veto?
Oh, absolutely. I
Okay.
would probably just start the conversation with
With a
veto.
veto.
Let's move along.
Okay, fair enough.
That's funny.
Okay. Do we want to? I'm kind of nervous. I'm gonna get to the end and not use my veto. I assume we can't go.
We can go back and veto.
Yeah, you
think
can
I
go
was
back.
literally
Yeah.
just thinking that.
So
not
if we get to the end and one of us hasn't used our veto and we're like, oh shoot, I really want to change the outcome of this round to 64 game, we'll go
Yeah.
back and do that.
You also
Sure.
don't have to use your veto if you don't really think there's a good spot for it.
That's fair.
But I probably will use mine just because why not?
Will we see it on this next game?
That is a great question. Actually, we might. We'll see. So our next matchup is a 4 seed versus a 13 seed. Texas A&M versus Yale.
My Aggies got a bad draw here. Personally, think we should have been the last 3 seed based on overall body of work and resume metrics.
I don't
but
think the loss to Texas helped there.
no, if we beat Texas, I think we're the last 3 seed.
Sure.
Wisconsin's run to the finals didn't help us either as they hopped us. But I'll start this conversation off talking about A&M.
Go ahead.
This team it's an ugly team, not even going to lie. We don't play pretty basketball. We don't shoot well. Our shooting splits are 42, 31, and 70, which is 270th or worse in the country in all 3 shooting splits. We're one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country. It's just not pretty basketball. But we get 42% of our misses.
Yeah, it's super impressive.
We're the best offensive rebounding team in the country. That's what we hang our hat on. And we're a good defensive team as well. We're 7th in defensive rating. You will not score on us on the interior. We can, depending on scheme, get burned from deep. If there's just a really good shooter on the other team. Buzz Williams is not the best at realizing that and being like, hey, we got to stop this at all costs. He's just going to keep playing his scheme. Thinking about the Tennessee game where Chaz Lanier hit 7 threes in the first half and was just like, how have we not changed what we're doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know how we're this good, to be honest, but we've shown multiple times that we can beat really good teams and be in games with really good teams. And so you have to respect that and realize that we could win any given game. In terms of the Yale matchup, Yale's a great rebounding team as well, especially on the defensive glass. They don't really give up offensive rebounds, so it's kind of going to be a strength-on-strength matchup. And they do shoot the three well, which I just mentioned is a weakness for A&M. I think it's really going to come down to Wade Taylor, to be honest. A&M's best player, not an efficient scorer, but a good scorer in terms of volume. 15 points a game, can get to the free throw line really well, and doesn't miss his free throws. But yeah, can he be an efficient scorer? Maybe can someone like Anderson Garcia make plays and just grind out this win?
And hit threes, apparently.
I mean, he can shoot it a little bit, not going to lie.
He hit a few big ones against Texas.
4 from
Yeah.
3, which is crazy. I don't know. I'm going to pick A&M to win here because it's A&M. It's my team. I go back and forth on, like, A&M's going to lose this game because we got a bad matchup, and A&M doesn't really care who they play. They're just going to play their style and grind it out, and they're going to end up winning this game because of that. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts?
I throw the Sanders first.
Okay.
Yeah, I my very quick research. The leading scorer from Yale's upset win over Auburn last year is returning,
Mm-hmm.
He's back.
averaging 19 points a game this season.
Pulakidis.
Yeah, Yeah, I was wondering. I'm glad you know how to say that. 'cause
Pulakidis.
I definitely
Shout out
wouldn't have
JP
said
for
it.
the pronunciation.
So, yeah, that's huge. I don't know. I love a good story, and it's really cool to see Yale make it in back-to-back tournaments, especially after they took the world by storm last year, beating Auburn as a 13 seed. Was
Yeah,
it
13-4.
Yeah, 13
Same
over
matchup.
4. Yeah,
Exactly.
so
Yeah, you're right.
they've got guys that have been there and done that. Is it the same coach? I don't know.
I would assume
It's the
so.
same coach, I'm pretty sure. No
Okay.
Danny Wolf this year.
That is
Potential
tough.
second-round matchup between
Mhm.
Danny Wolf and his old team.
Wait, so Danny Wolf transferred to?
From
To
Yale
Michigan.
to Michigan.
Oh,
Yeah.
I missed that. That's interesting. So I have to go with Yale here for the rematch. I'm picking Yale.
Okay.
Are we doing picks already? Did I miss that? in
Yeah,
research?
Yeah, I
A&M
picked
and
A&M.
Yale.
I picked A&M.
So I'm the decider here.
Okay.
Unless we see a veto.
What
Yeah,
happens if two people veto? Is it like a buzzer? Like first one to say it gets it?
I think first one gets it.
Okay.
First veto
I agree.
wins.
You
Yeah,
wanna go
A&M,
ahead? You go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine. A&M is one of the few teams that beat Auburn. Very impressive victory, especially down the stretch. I know Jack wasn't expecting it, and I don't think anyone really was. A&M had some good non-conference wins. They beat Texas Tech. They beat Purdue. Those are two teams that are ranked higher than them. And Yale is one of those teams. Pulakidis came back. He's averaging 19 points a game. He lit up Auburn for 30 plus.
Crazy.
I do think if Yale's going to win this game, it has to come from him. He has to go off again. I think A&M's offensive rebounding is just something that Yale's not going to be able to counter. This is a Yale team that beat Princeton twice. Princeton was the overwhelming favorite to come out of the Ivy League this year. They beat Princeton twice, including a win by 27 points. But I'm going to pick A&M here personally. I do like the Yale versus Danny Wolf, rematch, or I guess not rematch, but matchup in the second round. But I do think, like Jack was saying with the Michigan UC San Diego matchup, I think this is going to be a very popular pick with Yale, and I think this is a great spot to fade the upset again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with A&M personally. Sanders, will you veto?
I want to so bad. I don't want to.
You can do it.
I'm not
You
going to do
can-
it to
you can
Jack.
come
I
back
don't
to
want
it.
to do that to Jack.
You can do it.
You could come back
I'm going to
to it.
save it and come back
Okay.
to it.
All right.
Okay.
If there are no better opportunities, I am vetoing this game
Okay,
because
fair.
I want to see a Danny Wolf versus Yale rematch, and also just like the story Oh, it's too good. Okay.
Another thing to add here, just real quick. I know we're trying to move on, but Yale hasn't beat any teams in the field. It's not they've really lost any teams in the field either. They just don't really have the opportunity, so it is a little hard to know. Their metrics look good. Their stats look
Yeah,
good.
they've only played one tournament team, Purdue, which they lost to by 8 at Purdue.
And that's a close game, so I mean it's a good one showing, but it is just they've kind of been in a little Ivy League bubble over there. So they've done well there, obviously, but it's hard to know exactly how good they are.
Is basketball home court 3 points like football? According to
It's
Vegas?
definitely not 3 points. I couldn't tell you what the
Okay.
exact.
Because in
metric
football
is.
it's 3, typically.
Yes,
Yeah.
football it's 3
Okay,
typically.
interesting. All right. Well, so we got A&M winning that matchup.
Why'd you ask? Sorry, I'm just curious.
Oh, I was just curious because, well, if Purdue won by 8 at Purdue, I was
Oh,
just
yeah, yeah,
curious, like,
gotcha.
how
Sure,
close
sure,
of a
sure.
game that would be considered. Because if you say neutral court, would you consider Yale the winner, or was it, like, I was just curious.
A&M did beat Purdue this year, and also
Very
last
true.
thing, but A&M's a 7.5 point favorite in the game. I don't think we mentioned that.
I don't think we did. That's interesting. I mean, neutral site? Wait, where? It's not neutral. Yes, it is. Yeah.
It is neutral site to be in Denver.
Very cool. Next matchup, 6 versus 11. Well, first we have to decide who are we picking at the 11. We got San Diego State versus North Carolina.
So, I don't think North Carolina really should have made it personally. I have San Diego State winning.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have much to say there. UNC really hasn't impressed me this year.
Nope.
SDSU is 21-9. They're a great defensive team. They beat some good teams as well. They beat Creighton. They beat Houston. Not very many teams that beat Houston. They beat UC San Diego. But yeah, they're also getting. I'm
That's
gonna
more
butcher this
quad
name.
1A victories than UNC has.
Yeah, Magoon Gua is coming back from injury. He missed the past couple games. Defensive Player of the Year in the conference, 7 foot tall. He's a good force inside. I think he's averaging over 4 blocks a game or something crazy like that. But there's a great defensive team. And I don't know. UNC just given me nothing this year to really be like, I think they could get something done. Besides, I mean, they do have R.J. Davis. So
Yeah, I mean, we saw their surprising run 2 years or 3 years ago with when they were the 8th seed and they made the big run all the way to the national championship, beating Coach K in his final game.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to favor San Diego State here to win that game. Coach Dutcher has done an incredible job with San Diego State. This is a consistent tournament team. While they may not have the talent and production as that they've had in previous seasons, making it all the way to the national title like they did, and losing to UConn, I think this is UNC just they don't play well against tournament teams. They have one win against Quad 1, which Quad 1 is basically a tournament team, and it's if they're 1-12 against Quad 1 or 1-13, I think after the loss to Duke. Why would you think they would, win a first 4 game, even with R.J. Davis? I'd favor San Diego State personally.
Yeah. I mean, North Carolina is a historic basketball program, blue blood,
Yeah.
all that stuff. They're not that team this year. San Diego State is a better basketball team has better performances this season, and I'm not gonna give North Carolina more than that. It's San Diego State for me. So San Diego State versus Ole Miss, the 6 versus 11.
I'm not going to give any analysis. San Diego State.
I'll second that. I'll give a little analysis.
Sure.
Starting off with the fact that we're at Mississippi State. We're state students, so we're obviously going to dislike Ole Miss. But I don't know. I mean, Ole Miss is not a very good rebounding team, and I think they could come back to bite them in March. I don't know. Just giving teams more opportunities to score than you is just never going to end well. So it's been a good year for the Rebels under Chris Beard, year 2. But I think this is a game they seriously could lose, and then adding the fact that I don't like Ole Miss on top because of where I go to school, I'm going to pick SDSU.
Yeah, and I don't know how many years it goes back, but I believe it's almost 10 years in a row where one of the teams in the first 4 makes it to the second round. So we kind of have to pick, it would say, based on
Unless you want to go
statistical
back and repick Alabama State.
We may have to,
Awesome.
honestly.
But
It's all said and
I
done.
think this, if anyone's, because the other one is Illinois, and with Texas and Xavier, I think if any of those teams would lose to their first 4 team, it'd probably be the school up north.
See, my analysis of this game is I'm kind of expecting whatever causes me the most pain, which is Ole Miss winning.
Okay.
That's kind of how I felt watching Padula hit that buzzer beater against Arkansas. So I was like, there's no way that we lose our game, and then the next day they're going to win this. Was it the next day or was it the same day?
Same day.
Same day, sorry. I was like, there's no way that he's going to hit this, and, like, they're going to get that cool story, the buzzer beater, and he hit it. And I was like, well, this sucks. So I'm kind of preparing myself for the worst. I really think Ole Miss is going to win. I think that Ole Miss is a good basketball team.
They definitely are good. I don't want to feel like
I think they're in a really good spot, too, with the hurt Iowa State. This is a team that could easily make the Sweet 16. And Michigan State is one of those teams that came on very late throughout the season, winning big games. They weren't this team at the beginning of the year. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Rebels made a run to the Elite Eight. They have the capability to do that. But you got to win the first game.
All right, so we're going San Diego State?
Yeah, San Diego State.
San Diego State.
It's been cool in a year where a lot of obviously transfer portal is a huge deal right now, where a lot of teams added a lot of guys from the portal or multiple guys from the portal and just never really gelled. Ole Miss hasn't really had that issue. Sean Padula's come in and just, kind of been that guy. And they've just, the returning pieces they just fit well around the transfers and vice versa. So good job from Chris Beard there.
Was San Diego State, did they play UConn in the championship 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
As a 9 seed or something? Like they were
And San Diego State was like a 5 or 4.
Yeah.
I think UConn was a 4.
Okay.
That was San Diego State might have been an 8.
I think they were 7 or 8. I think they were lower down.
I want to say they were 7, but I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't remember. So
3 versus 14. Iowa State versus Lipscomb.
I'm just going to kick it off. We've already mentioned it, or I mentioned in the last pod maybe, but Keyshawn Gilbert is out
For the season.
Yeah, he's not returning.
Second leading scorer.
Yep. So Curtis Jones is going to take on a bigger role. So that's just something to keep an eye on. They've not been healthy most of the year, though, realistically. This is nothing new to them, playing through injuries. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But I just want to throw that out there to offer it.
Yeah, I guess my thing is they've been playing through injuries, but I don't feel like they've been playing well. I mean, they started out the season as the second best team in the country. And then as those injuries started to hit, they've kind of, I feel like, tailed off. They just lost to BYU twice in two games, right? They lost to them to end the regular season, and then lost to them again in their first game in the Big 12 tournament. So I don't know how I feel about. Yeah, they've been playing with the injuries and they've gotten used to it, but I don't think I've liked what I've seen with them getting used to it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a them getting used to it thing as much as it is just like something they've had to deal with simply. I agree that they've not necessarily like passed the test with flying colors, but it is not a code red in the sense of they're going, oh crap, this is our guy that we've had all year, and we've just relied on him the whole year. They've played without him before, so they at least kind of have a sense of what the roles are without him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even if it's not been the most successful at times.
And do they have someone else who is coming back from injury?
I'd have to look, and I just don't want to take the time right now, honestly, just because I don't want it to take forever. But they've just had guys in and out all season.
Yeah. Okay.
They were missing 2 starters, in their game against BYU, and Keyshawn Gilbert was one of them, and he's not coming back.
Okay.
So I don't personally really see them having any issue with Lipscomb. I don't know if y'all feel any different, but I'm going Iowa State here.
Yeah, Lipscomb out of the Atlantic Sun, which is a conference that holds a lot of weight in my heart. In the college basketball 2K8, Kennesaw State's in the Atlantic Sun. They're in the Conference USA now, but I always start my legacy with KSU. I'm actually on one right now with KSU, and I've lost to Lipscomb twice in the conference tournament. So I hate Lipscomb and the Bisons. Iowa State 13.5-point favorite. I don't think they have any trouble here against Lipscomb, and I think I would pick Iowa State personally.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Iowa State here. While I do think that there have been some concerns about them making a deep run in the tournament, or I have some concerns about them making a deep run, I don't have any concerns about their first round matchup.
Jack, veto?
No, I'm not going to veto. I mean, I already said I like Iowa State to win this matchup. As soon as I pick them as my favorite, it's like I suddenly have some attachment to this team. I don't
Yeah, well,
crazy how that
remember what they
works.
did to you when you picked them as your favorite. They lost. So.
Yeah, but the boys were hurt, so
And
can't
they're
fault
still
them. Yeah, but I can, whatever. Curtis Jones, you're my guy.
Guys, I have some. I think we're on pace for a 4-hour episode if we do.
It'll pick up after the first round because we've talked about teams a bunch.
Yep.
So,
Okay. That's
trust. We can try and be a little faster, but I'm not too worried about
Yeah,
it.
I think my concern is like we're gonna get into like more interesting matchups, which is gonna make it take longer.
No,
Okay. Well, I'll trust y'all.
I
But
disagree.
if we continued going at this rate, it would take 4 hours. 7 versus 10. Marquette versus New Mexico State.
Marquette got an electric player in Cam Jones. Marquette, of course, lost to the Dogs 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
When Cam Jones was a freshman, Cam Jones is a junior now. Shaka Smart has done a decent job with Marquette. I think.
Choker in March, though.
Yeah, this is a team that hasn't played well in March. Well said, Jack. And Shaka Smart, I just don't think he's done as good as he should with a team like this. Not even finishing in the top 4 in the Big East. Just not as impressive as you would think. But they got Cam Jones. I think Cam Jones is just electric. My opinion, I would pick Marquette over New Mexico here.
Yeah, I mean, Marquette's kind of had an interesting season. Cam Jones really is their best player pretty easily. He kind of has to backpack at times. Not been the most efficient shooter this year. One thing I've been very impressed with, he limits turnovers despite high usage rate. I mean, he has a 29% usage rate and just really not turning the ball over. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just really don't know how I feel. They went 1-5 in conference play against the other top seeds. Their only win in that regard being against Creighton at home. So I just don't love them. And I do actually like this New Mexico State team. Donovan Dent is a good player. I like what he could possibly do. Richard Pitino
Yes,
is their head coach.
correct.
I always
Patino's
flip
son.
Rick and Richard, so I'm glad I didn't do that there. Sorry, I had something I want to bring up, and I'm just struggling to find it on my sheet here because everything's so crammed together.
You forgot to double space it.
I did forget to double space it. I told you that's what I was going to do.
Sanders go then.
Yeah.
Then we can go back
Yeah,
to Jack.
loop back.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say I'm just not a huge fan. Like Jack said, you said they lost. Are they 1-5 against the best teams in their conference?
Yes,
Correct.
That's just. I mean, and they're in the big. They're not
Big
the big
East.
They're in the Big East.
Big East.
Yeah, I don't know. Big East is a basketball conference, so going the top 6 teams in there are gonna be pretty good. But I don't think if you can't compete against the best teams in your conference, and you're up against a pretty good New Mexico State team, I don't know if I can trust that. So I'm gonna go with the upset here. I'm gonna go with New Mexico State.
New
Yeah,
Mexico, big difference.
Oh, I have it listed as New Mexico State. I must have put that in wrong.
Yeah.
that is tough.
Mexico
it is New
State.
Mexico.
Coach
How did
Shams
I
is
do
former.
Good
that?
catch.
Thank you.
Okay, I found what I was looking for.
That's on me.
Donovan Dent averages 20 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
He's their best scorer. They do score well overall, but the predictive metrics don't love them, kind of indicating that they've taken advantage of a weaker schedule and may struggle against better teams. I don't know. This is just a true toss-up for me.
You're the
I d-
deciding factor.
I am the deciding factor. So I'll make my pick after I point this out. But they went 1-5 against the other good teams, quote unquote, in the Big East. But they did beat Maryland and Purdue and Georgia and Wisconsin out of conference. So it's not like they haven't beat other good teams. It's just kind of a lack of performance down the stretch and potentially seeing kind of some wear on Cam Jones as he's carried this heavy load. Oh boy. I'm gonna take Marquette solely based off the fact that I picked New Mexico last year to make a bit of a run and was at their first round game against Clemson, and they just went out with a whimper.
Mhm.
So, not gonna let that happen again. They can prove it to me and beat Marquette, and I'll be like, oh well. But I'll go with Marquette here.
All right,
Alright.
that'll bring us on to Michigan State and Bryant.
Yep.
Michigan State's favored by 18.5. Gosh, what's his name? What's the head coach's name again?
Is
Tom
it-
Izzo. Tom
Yeah.
Izzo has done an incredible job bringing this Spartans team around. This Spartan team wasn't ranked to start the year. So if that tells you anything about the job that Tom Izzo has done this year, bringing Michigan State up to a 2 seed, They're favored by 18.5 against Bryant. Bryant is the home of March Madness legend Doug Eddard. I believe he's still on the team. Let me double
That's
check
crazy.
that.
He should stay at St. Peter's, but is what it is. While you're looking that up, I'll hop in. The first thing I have in my team outlook for Michigan State is in all caps, never
He's
bet
not on
against
the team
Izzo
anymore.
in March, because he just knows how to win in March.
Doug Eddard is not on the team. He
Tough.
was on the team last year.
Um,
Give me Michigan State.
yeah, I mean, Tom Izzo's taking Michigan State to 8 Final Fours. They're playing great defense this year. They don't really let teams drive. They just kind of clog up the gaps. They basically say, beat us from deep. And it's the opposite on their end. They do not shoot the 3 ball well, 29% from 3. But they just don't really take them. He said, well, we're not going to hit them, so, let's just pound the paint, get downhill, score at the rim. Jace Richardson has come on late and been very good. One of the few good shooters on the team, shoots 39% from 3. Him, Jaden Atkins, Cohen Carr, they got a group there. I hope we get to see some cool Cohen Carr dunks in March. But Michigan State. Sorry, Bryant.
Yeah,
Sanders?
I know what it's like to play against Tom Izzo in March. We did it last year, and it left me sitting devastated in the Union. Yeah, it was not fun. So, yeah, I'm never going to bet against Izzo until maybe a couple rounds later, but definitely not in the first round. So, yeah, give me Michigan State as well.
All right, do we want to go down or do we want to keep picking the South?
I think we go down.
Yeah, just keep going down to Florida, right?
All right, heard. Florida and Norfolk State. Florida is favored by 28.5.
Give me Florida.
We've talked a lot about Florida and how special they are, and I think we'll go deeper into them after they beat the crap out of Norfolk State. So we'll go with the Gators. Sanders, any objections?
I'm going to veto. No, I'm going to go Florida.
All right.
That
That'll
is-
give us
They're the hottest team in the country right now,
Yeah.
in
By
my
far.
opinion. And no disrespect to Norfolk State, you get the congrats on making it. Now go lose your game. So
All right, that'll give us one of the coolest matchups, biggest storylines. 8-9 seed UConn, the 2-time defending national champion, versus Jeremiah Fears in Oklahoma, coached by Coach Morris, obviously the coach for Loyola Chicago that had all those good runs in March Madness. This is his 4th year with Oklahoma, and their first year in the SEC. They finished 14th in the conference, but made an impressive run at Kentucky in a very fun game. And they've gotten all the way up to a 9 seed, which for me I feel like is a little bit an overseed. The 14th ranked team in the conference,
what can you say?
not ranked, but 14th in terms of seeding.
Beating the Dogs was huge.
Yeah, I guess beating Georgia. I was at that game in Nashville. I wouldn't say that win was as impressive as I guess the committee said, but then again, there are questions about the committee with putting North Carolina in when the leader is the AD of North Carolina. That was a very controversial story today. UConn is favored by 4.5 over Oklahoma, led by Solo Ball, who averages 14 points a game. Dan Hurley's got a lot to, a lot of checks to, I guess, sign off and send out, because he's made a lot of statements this year, a lot of actions this year specifically, and he's been under a lot of fire. This was the guy that was supposed to be the head coach of the Lakers, the head coach of Luka Doncic.
I think they made the right call getting J.J. Redick.
Yeah, they go with J.J. Redick instead. UConn comes back with Dan Hurley. And as the 2-time defending champs, you're going to get everyone's best shot. I think they're in a very interesting matchup with Oklahoma. I think given that Oklahoma's a little overseeded, I just don't see UConn losing this first-round matchup, but I do see them potentially getting destroyed by Florida. So I'm going to pick UConn. Jack?
Yeah, I'm a Jeremiah Fears fan through and through. I think he's a ton of fun to watch. But I kind of agree with what you said. I don't really see this UConn team, spoiler, but beating a 1 seed in the second round, partially because, the biggest difference between this team and their previous teams is the defense. They're 94th in defensive rating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Losing Klingon, and Stephon Castle, two great defenders, has really hurt them, and they've not really filled that void. So they're still scoring the ball really well. Solo Ball, like you said, great player. Fire name. I mean, how can you not be a hooper with the name Solo Ball?
Agreed.
But yeah, I think they'll beat Oklahoma, because I don't think Oklahoma has the juice to get it done. And Darren Hurley's kind of pissed me off this year, honestly. Becoming less and less of a fan of the guy, but he's a very good basketball coach still. And so that's another edge that UConn has. So I'm gonna go UConn here.
Well, no veto from me, so I would probably also go with UConn here. He's a very good basketball coach. He has to be. He won 2 championships in a row. Dan Hurley is fantastic, even if I don't like his personality and the way he's kind of handled being what we all thought was the best in college basketball. We had this conversation the other day. It's like, if you claim to be the best at something, can you be the best at it? And Dan Hurley's made claims allegedly about being the best coach in college basketball. And I don't know. I don't think that you can be, and I don't think he is. But he's still fantastic.
He's the defending champ. I guess he still has that claim until that doesn't happen. Of the 8-9 matchups, I think this is the most that could be a coin flip. I think we'll be very strong, and I guess maybe with the State-Baylor game we'll have some debate there. But I think the Creighton, Louisville, and the Gonzaga, Georgia, we're going to have very clear answers.
Yeah.
I think this game, even though we all picked UConn, this game could be a coin flip. Jeremiah Fears has shown the ability to score at a high rate.
Oklahoma has other shooters too, so
Absolutely.
if they can just get hot from 3, UConn's going to find themselves in trouble, especially with their defensive woes. But, still think UConn's a safer pick here.
Agreed. All right, that'll give us Memphis and Colorado State in a 5 versus 12 matchup. That'll take place in Seattle, Washington, very far away from Memphis.
Tough.
This is a very interesting storyline. Colorado State is favored in this game. They're favored by 2.5.
Really?
As the 12 seed over the 5 seed Memphis. And this is a Memphis team that we've been told all year long is a very, very good team. Haggerty, averages 22 a night with 6 boards and 4 assists. He's one of the best players in the country. Obviously, we remember the Dogs going up there to Memphis and just shooting the lights out and really controlling this Memphis team from the jump. But we're in a spot where they are the underdogs to a Colorado State team that's very hot. They made a big run through the Mountain West tournament, destroyed Boise State, and evidently knocked Boise State out of the tournament by beating Boise State in the conference title game. I know we've been told Memphis has been a really good team the entire year. I think it's hard to pick against a team that has just a player who can score at a prolific rate, especially like Haggerty. So in my opinion, I would go Memphis, and I would take Memphis to cover the 2.5, obviously. But I'm probably going to take their money line if I'm forced to bet on this game.
I mean, yeah, so you say we've been told all year that they're a really good team. I also feel like we've seen it. I mean, with big wins over teams like Ole Miss, Clemson, Michigan State, UConn, I feel like we've definitely seen it on the court as well. And then seen it like we played them. I mean, that was a stressful game. It ended up being we dominated pretty well, but I mean, I'd say the first 3 quarters of the game, I was not confident, just because I could see the potential in Memphis. And then as far as I'm still gonna end up picking them. I've actually been over here, so I told y'all I came up with a new model. I improved on the one that y'all didn't like a couple weeks ago. I made some tweaks to it. It's actually got Memphis favored by 8.5.
Wow,
seems a little high, but
I'm really interested to see. I've been testing some of my numbers compared to Vegas numbers, and a lot of them are pretty close. It had the UConn game that we just looked at as UConn favored by 1 as opposed to 4.5. You said. So it was pretty close. So I'll be really interested to see how that kind of plays out as I keep fiddling with it. But I am definitely going to have to go with Memphis, and Memphis to cover. Or I guess if they win, they have to cover because Colorado State's favored. But I will also go with Memphis.
Jack?
I'm going to be the contrarian here, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. Memphis definitely a little overseeded, in my opinion. 5 seems a little high. We have seen them beat good teams, don't get me wrong. Some impressive wins. They've kind of just been clowning around in the American Conference, to be honest. They've won most of their games, but a lot have been closer than they should have been.
Definitely.
Additionally, Tyrese Hunter is injured. We don't really know much about it, what his availability will be, so that's just something to keep an eye on. Ken Palm doesn't really love him. They're 52nd in Ken Palm, so their resume metrics, and they have good wins. Predictive metrics wise, a little shakier. Which of course, like which do you lean? I mean, undoubtedly PJ Haggerty is a bucket. He's going to get his. But Colorado State has been really hot recently. They just won the Mountain West tournament. They played well in Mountain West all year long. They have a guy, Nick Clifford, 19-10-4, so he's a bucket as well. He's going to get his. They shoot well from three as a team. I think this will be a very fun game, a very good game. It's not like I'm like, oh, Colorado State definitely wins this game, but I just kind of wanted to give them some love and have them win this game. And I'm going to use my veto on them.
Okay.
Oh,
Shout
our
out Colorado
first
State.
veto.
Actually, hold off on that. No, I already said it. I'll go.
I think you commit to it.
Yeah,
don't
I
mind
commit.
that
I
pick,
commit.
brother.
Shout out Colorado State. Don't let me down. There has been, the Mountain West does not fare well
Sure.
in March, so I'm a little worried about that. But let's go Clifford. Let's go Colorado State.
All right, that'll give us the next matchup is Maryland and Grand Canyon. Again, these games are played in Seattle, so a big
That's tough for Maryland, honestly.
travel discrepancy. Grand Canyon will have a much shorter flight than Maryland.
I think Grand Canyon travels like that, though.
I don't know.
I couldn't tell you either.
It's definitely an interesting question. Grand Canyon was almost a spoiler last year. They unfortunately couldn't get done against St. Mary's, correct?
It might have been St. Mary's, but I think it was. We need to look it up.
Y'all keep talking. I'll find.
Okay,
I'll find.
heard.
Cool.
But yeah, Maryland is the team I picked to win the Big Ten tournament. They would have done it if not for the run down the court Michigan had with the left-hand finish. After, unfortunately, Derek Queen being out of position after they made free throw. Maryland's team, they've got 5 guys that score over 12 points a night. I talked about them, how their bigs are 2 dominant bigs that will average. They average both over 12 points a night as well as 8 rebounds a night. This is a Maryland team that has a lot of talent. Led by Derek Queen, the true freshman. They're favored by 10.5. I think they're a team that could easily make a Final Four run. I'm picking Maryland personally.
I've got it pulled up. They beat St. Mary's.
They beat St. Mary's, okay.
Yeah, and then lost to Alabama in the second.
Oh, yeah.
By 11. A lot of people had them beating Alabama, though. That was a pretty popular pick. Tyson Grant Foster, I believe is his name.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Canyon's best player. Has some draft buzz. Thought maybe he'd go. Comes back. Don't know if that was the right decision or not, but he can definitely play. But, yeah, Maryland, the Crab 5 is their nickname. I think that's a great nickname. Their starting 5 is elite. They don't necessarily have the best depth. In a game like this, I don't think that really matters. Derek Queen, Jacoby Gillespie, going to go to work. I do feel like Julian Reese gets overshadowed a little bit because of Derek Queen, but he's
Sure.
another very good big, and the combo of them work well together. Julian Reese is a little more physical. Not that Derek Queen isn't, but maybe a little more finesse on Derek Queen. But, yeah, I got Maryland.
Yep.
Sanders?
I also have Maryland. I think maybe what we should do is we should each give our thoughts and then just go down the line at the very end and all 3 just pick back to back.
Sounds good to me.
Maybe create a little bit more drama if we get some closer competition, especially later on. I'm really excited for some of the later round stuff. But yeah, we're all gonna go with Maryland here.
We're about to get into a fire game, so.
Yeah,
this is gonna be really interesting.
Jack, you just want to go ahead and go into it, man?
Yeah, it's Drake Mizzou, if I'm not mistaken.
It
Correct.
is.
So I'm going to try and pull up Drake here real quick.
Yeah, sure.
You want to get us started?
Yeah, Missouri and Drake. Mizzou, the team that knocked out State in the SEC tournament before being bombarded by Florida in the next round. Dennis Gates has done an excellent job this year. Missouri was by far the worst team in the conference last year, led by Nick Honor. If Nick Honor's your leading scorer, you're in trouble. And this
Respect Nick Honor, okay?
okay. I disagree.
Crazy build, but he got stuff done. Sorry.
But no, this is a team that has a lot of talented players with Bates. Mitchell is good. Obviously, Caleb Grill, who at one point was shooting 50% SEC play from three. This is a Missouri team that's a very good team, but they're playing a very good Drake team. And Jackie got some words about Drake or Mizzou.
Yeah, I mean, Ben McCollum's their head coach, first-year head coach, came from D2 and is already getting buzz to be a high-end, high-major job. Indiana rumors, Iowa rumors already.
First year 30-3 is very impressive.
Insane. He wins everywhere. If he went to Indiana, I was telling one of my friends that's an Indiana fan, I was like, it feels very similar to like Coach Sig, their football coach, where he was like,
yes,
Google me, I win, or whatever he said.
Sure.
Just similar vibes.
That was crazy.
Bennett Sturts is their best player. I believe did he follow?
I don't. know.
I think he maybe followed Ben McCollum from D2, which if so would be crazy. Nope, he's been at Drake this whole time. Nope. It doesn't say. He's got to be because it says it has his first year listed here as a junior, and I'm assuming they don't look at D2 stats.
I'll go find it.
But he averages 19, 4, and 6.
Mhm.
He's an absolute bucket. This team just plays good basketball. They play at a slower pace, which is going to be an interesting contrast here is who's going to be able to dictate the pace of this game because Missouri wants to play fast. They like to run. But, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't really know a ton about this Drake team, but all I hear is, like, watch out for Drake. I don't even consider them mid-major. Like, they're not they're a legit team. They belong to be here. They hold opponents to 58.4 points per game, which is the lowest in D1. So just something to keep an eye on. I don't know. Well, we're going to wait to give our leans. But what do you got, Sanders?
Yeah. Drake they just won their conference championship. They have lost once since January 8th. And their only loss was to a Bradley team that y'all know I love.
3-point shooting demons. I think they're top 5 in the country in 3-point percentage.
Big Bradley fans. We talked about them a couple episodes ago. I looked it up. They are in Peoria. I do not know where Peoria is, but
Pretty sure it's in Iowa.
now I know. If someone asked me where is Bradley, it's in Peoria.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about Bradley.
Bradley, okay.
I thought
thought
you were
were
talking about Drake.
No,
My
no,
bad.
no, no, my bad. I'm talking about their last loss was
Sure.
to Bradley, and I mean Bradley's a good basketball team.
Sure.
So,
Your model says that at least.
well, my model also has Drake favored over Missouri.
Okay.
So that's a pretty big upset. They got Drake favored by 3. So yeah, now we can work back way across. I'm gonna go with Drake here.
Okay. This feels like a lose-lose pick, honestly, because you pick Missouri loses, and it's like, oh, of course, like everyone said Drake was this really good team. I should have known. And then you pick Drake and Missouri beats them. It's like, well, Missouri played in the SEC. They've been good all year, shoot the ball well, are bigger and more athletic than Drake. Like, I should have known Missouri was going to win. I'm going to go with the Tigers. Give me Missouri.
Cool. I'm the decider. I'm going to go with Drake personally. Drake plays at the 364th fastest pace, so the slowest pace in the country, because there are 364 teams in Division I basketball.
In case you didn't know.
Yeah. I think that's going to play against Missouri's advantage, where they play at that fast pace. I think when you find a matchup like this where you have slow pace versus fast pace, I think the slow pace, in my opinion, is better off if the fast pace, doesn't play with a lot of discipline, I guess I would say. I think Missouri just flies up and down the court, and they showed in the SEC tournament that this is a team that, and they've shown all year that this is a team that doesn't play very well on neutral courts. They did not play good against Mississippi State. We weren't able to pull it off. They didn't play good against Florida. They lost to Illinois on a neutral court. I think this is just the neutral court, and away from home is just not something that favors Missouri. So give me Drake.
All right.
Veto, Jack?
I already used mine.
it. All right, let's go. Then we'll go into Texas Tech and UNC Wilmington. I apologize. The Seahawks and the Red Raiders. What a glorious mascot matchup that is. Texas Tech led by JT Toppin, and the Seahawks led by Donovan Newby. Texas Tech is favored by 15.5. This is a good Texas Tech team. They're one of the few teams that beat Houston, and then they would lose to Houston in the rematch. UNC Wilmington has 0 wins over tournament teams.
Unlucky.
And they are underdogs by 15.5. Thoughts on this one, Jack?
Yeah. I think everyone knows Texas Tech's a great team. I think I'm a little higher on them than most. I just think they play a really good brand of basketball and a really fun brand of basketball. They hit over 10 3-pointers a night on average, which is crazy. They are maybe a little all bought in on 3-pointers, though they do have JT Toppin to go to work inside, so maybe that's not entirely true. But they just have so many shooters. It's like, okay, if Chance McMillan's cold, Christian Anderson's going to hit some. They're just all over the place. JT Toppin looks borderline unstoppable at times. He's basically saying, I'm bigger than you. I'm more physical. I'm stronger. He has a 32.7 usage rate, which is
That's
nuts. Averages 18, 9, and 1. Can shoot the 3 a little bit. Operate in the pick and roll or pick and pop. I want to give some love to Christian Anderson. I already mentioned him. Watching him shoot the basketball. If you've not seen this guy shoot, I think you should watch a shot or two, JP.
Okay.
As a shooting aficionado, it looks clean to me. He's so fun to watch. He's one of my breakout watches. Shoots above 40% from 3 because it seems like their whole team does. Yeah.
Interesting matchup thing here. This game's going to take place at 10:10 Eastern. Obviously, UNC Wilmington out over there in North Carolina. Texas Tech with the Central Time. They'll be playing at 9:10 for them. It's a question for UNC Wilmington. Can you get up and play at a high level at 10:10 at night, local time for you?
Oh, I thought you meant AM. I'm not gonna lie. I was thinking
No,
AM.
PM.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
Where is this, a West Coast game?
This will be in Wichita, Kansas.
Tough. It would just be the last game of the day there.
Yeah, it'll be the last game of the day here, playing at 10:10 Eastern, for a team from North Carolina. That could be an interesting dilemma for them.
That could be a big challenge. Yeah.
Sanders?
I don't know. Texas Tech is really good.
Sure.
I have not watched a whole lot of Texas Tech basketball, but I've watched even less of UNC Wilmington. And so it was really interesting to kind of see them fall to Arizona in Big 12 tournament. And then also, were they the ones that Arizona had the buzzer beater, the half court to it overtime?
I can't recall. But
I
they
couldn't tell you.
did lose to Arizona.
I feel like it was. So does that mean they lost to him twice? Anyway, it's just, Texas Tech is going to win this game, but I don't know how much farther they'll go after that.
You got a Sanders stamp of approval there. Is going to win this game. So if you don't like certainties, that may scare you, and you can go UNC Wilmington. But I love this Texas Tech team, and, yeah, I got them winning this game.
Shout out CT. I'm going to go with the Red Raiders out of Lubbock, Texas. And, all right, that'll put us with one of the most interesting matchups in the entire first round.
Great matchup.
Obviously, we talked about UConn, Oklahoma. That's a great matchup from a team perspective. Kansas, Arkansas. These are two teams that were, highly anticipated coming into the season. Calipari's first year at Arkansas. Kansas, brings in these big transfers in A.J. Storr, Shaquille Moore out of Mississippi State, big transfer right there.
Huge transfer.
Although he hasn't played much of the.
He started for a little while.
Well, yeah, but he played in the second third of the season. He hasn't played much in the last third of the season. But Bill Self versus John Calipari. What else could you ask for? This should be a really, really good matchup. Kansas is favored by 4.5. Like I said, Kansas was the number 1 team coming into the season. Arkansas was up there in the top 15. These are two teams that we were told were going to be very good by the AP poll. And then they just, for Kansas, they have just not been able to produce with the talent that they have. Hunter Dickinson, Zeke Mayo, DeJuan Harris, and A.J. Storr. You would think that, and then with KJ Adams as well, you would think that's just an all-stars, star-studded starting 5 for college basketball, and yet they struggled in the Big 12 a ton. They didn't beat really any of the teams above them, and it's really just been a disappointing season for them. As Jackson Carter would say, Hunter Dickinson bum. For Arkansas, this is going to be an interesting game for them. They hope to get Fierro back, but they will get Boogie Flan back, who, before he was hurt, was averaging 15 points a game. And to go along with John L. Davis, who played very, very well in the SEC
He's
tournament.
picked it up for sure.
As someone who was there, watching him play, he played very, very well. And Jonas Adu played very, very well. I think he's a guy who can match up with Dickinson. I think there's a good chance he's going to outplay Dickinson in this game. Jack, thoughts on the Razorbacks and Jayhawks?
Yeah, I'm gonna just kind of keep it more Kansas here for now. I was doing my team preview, and I don't understand how this team is as bad as it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kansas basketball. They have all the talent. They have Bill Self. Like, you just never thought you'd see a season like this from Kansas. I can't really pinpoint what the issue is, to be honest. I mean, there's been a couple players that haven't maybe played as well as you'd hoped. Zeke Mayo's been great though. Hunter Dickinson's still putting up great stats. 18 and 10, while shooting 53% from the floor. That's just like they just honestly can't really close games. And I point to DeJuan Harris, who stat wise hasn't really seen a crazy big drop off, but I just don't feel like he's been the leader and the true floor general of years past. It feels like he's stagnated a little bit. So maybe that's the reason. But it's almost like I expect this team to be good and win games, but at this point it's too late. Like I don't know if it's gonna ever come together. And Arkansas is playing pretty good basketball recently, their best basketball of the year.
Definitely.
So it's just something to keep an eye on. It's like Kansas should win this game, but maybe they won't.
Yeah. I'm just going to disagree with JP that Jonas Adu is going to outplay Hunter Dickinson, someone who's averaging a double-double. I think it's pretty impressive. I think I'm going to have to stick with that. Kansas, it is really odd. And also, I feel like their season hasn't been, and maybe I just don't have the expectations of a Kansas fan, but finishing as a 7 seed, making the NCAA tournament, I don't know how, I guess that's disappointing for Kansas fans, but.
That's bad.
It's their worst finish in, like, who knows how long. Probably 10 years, or at least.
They have made the tournament for 35 straight years.
Yeah.
So they at least completed that bar. But
yeah, I think it's hard for my brain to process just in a year with so many, like UNC struggling and Kentucky kind of down and having a bad year, where it just feels like a lot of coaches retired recently with Krzyzewski and then Calipari moving and the UNC coach
Roy Williams has been
Anyway,
retired a few years, but yeah, Jim Boeheim, Jim Larinaga.
So I just think with like all this changing the guard and stuff, it kind of feels like Kansas should be expecting that soon, and so I guess in my brain I feel like I don't know. It's just weird that everyone is like freaking out about Kansas, and I'm like, I mean, they're still a good basketball team. They're still in the tournament.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I'm too worried about this for Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, I get the chain of the guard thing. I definitely think there's some scheme things offensively Bill Self could maybe clean up, and make more modern. I think we've maybe seen a little bit this year with KJ Adams, kind of looking. I don't want to say like useless out there because he does still impact the game in some ways, but there's just no like offensive role for a guy like that can't really shoot a three, but isn't really tall enough to have an impact in the post against better centers and big men. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I get the changing of the guard thing. I'm just going to kick off the picks with mine. I'm going to go Arkansas.
Sanders?
What did Calipari say? He said, or someone asked him, why is it that your teams always get better in March?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they've done that since they won the championship in 2012.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to
Kansas.
Kansas.
Yep.
Yeah. Losing to St. Peter's and Wofford last year. Not Wofford. Yes, Wofford?
Oakland.
Jack
Golke.
Very similar colors.
You are right, man.
I think Sanders just made some very bold claims, including calling for Bill Self to retire.
Whoa, that is not what I said.
Heard it here first.
All I
guys.
said is that for someone who doesn't has the best sense of the pulse of college basketball, I low key feel like the great Kansas coach retired recently, and it's a new guy, Bill Self. It's because I forget that Bill Self has been there for 30 years.
Sure.
Kansas fans were like despondent after they lost their second conference game. Mm-hmm. They were like, the sky is falling, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah, I think I just looked it up. Thiero is doubtful to play in the first round. If he was playing, I would have picked Arkansas straight up, easily. But instead, I'm gonna go ahead and pick Arkansas straight up.
Cool.
I think Arkansas is just playing at a very good level, and if you return Boogie Flan 15 points a game, I think that's going to help John L. Davis a lot. That was one of the things they kind of just struggled scoring with the guard play, and Jonas Adu was a big reason that they were, winning those games, especially in the SEC tournament where they almost beat the School of North. Give me Arkansas on the Razorbacks. Sanders veto? Yes, no?
No, I will not be vetoing here.
All right.
I'm saving. I think I'm going to end up going back to that A&M game. So I'm saving it for now.
That's tough. I should have saved mine for the state game then.
All right, that'll give us Rick Pitino and St. John's against the Omaha Mavericks in the 2 versus 15. St. John's is 30-4, favored by 18.5 over Omaha. We can't talk about St. John's without saying what a wonderful job Rick Pitino has done in his second year with the Red Storm, the Johnnies. They last year were, about 500, and this year they're a 2 seed in March Madness. Just an incredible job that Rick Pitino has done in the second year. They're led by R.J. Lewis, who scores 18 points a game, gives you 7 rebounds. He played very, very well in the Big East Championship game against Creighton. This is a good team. They beat UConn twice. They beat Marquette 3 times, and they beat Creighton 3 times. Their only loss of note is a 1-point loss to Baylor. Omaha comes in not having beaten any tournament teams. This is their first time ever. Nope, that's a lie. This is definitely their second time in the tournament. But they come into a matchup with the St. John's team that is hot off a Big East championship, and it's Rick Pitino in March. You kind of have to expect that good things are going to happen for his squads because they always have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spend too long here because I don't really see much of a world where Omaha wins this. But Rick Pitino and R.J. Lewis, the alpha on St. John's team, they're going to get this done. I mean, even if they weren't a very good offensive team, which they definitely have had their struggles there, but they're still solid. Their defense is so good. They're just not going to let you drive on them. So,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but is St. John's first defensively, have the highest rated defense?
I have them as third
Okay.
on mine, but it is a day old.
Yeah,
the updated one is they are first.
They are
Yeah,
first.
that's
Okay,
what I thought.
I
According
apologize.
to Kim Pom.
he has done a fantastic job there. And yeah, I really do not expect Omaha to have much of a chance here. It's been, maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like from early in the season, St. John's was one of those teams I was high on. My model was high on early on, and I kind of got flack for that.
Sure.
I'm not. It was them and St. Mary's.
I mean, they weren't losing.
Well,
That kinda helps
you
the
deserve
model.
flack for St. Mary's.
Well, we'll see after they.
No, you deserve flack for St.
Anyways,
Mary's.
so I was high on St. John's. I can go back and look. Actually, I'll go back and look while y'all break down this next game to see how high I had them early on. But yeah, I'm pretty confident in his ability to coach that defense, and I trust the model. So we'll see.
You're officially picking St. John's?
Yes, officially.
Give me St. John's.
I'll take St. John's. No veto.
Shocking all around.
All right, that'll give us the East Regional with Duke, who will play the winner of the other first 4-16 matchup between American and Mount St. Mary's.
We are now at over an hour, and we are halfway through the first round.
Yeah, we're chilling, man.
We're totally fine. I will, and to speed up slightly, I say we go a little quick on this 116 matchup.
Give me Duke.
Give me Duke.
Duke.
Duke is amazing. We talked about Duke a lot. on the
Cooper
show
Flag.
already.
Yeah, with or
Uh,
without Cooper Flag, I'm taking Duke.
It's questionable that he'll play in that game.
They're number one in Kim Pom still, I believe.
They definitely won't need to play him, I don't think. And that'll bring us to the big matchup.
They bench. Do you think if it's close, do they? I mean, they're sitting him, right? He's not playing in the first
He's
round.
not playing the first round, Mike.
Even
don't
if he
think
was
so.
healthy.
They may give him a little run. He may play like 10 minutes or something just to treat it as almost like a practice type beat.
Yeah.
Trying to get him his game legs back, make sure that he's ready to go.
Okay,
This is where it really comes down to.
yeah, like I was saying, big matchup here between the Baylor Bears. I apologize to Scott Drew and the Baylor Bears.
Don't apologize. They're your enemies for the next 4 days.
And the Ohio State, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. This is another 8-9 matchup. In terms of spread, this is the one Vegas thinks is closest to being a coin flip. State is favored by 1.5. State is led by Mr. Call 12, Josh Hubbard, who averages 18.7 a game. He's one of the most efficient players in the country in terms of assist to turnover ratio, and for his higher usage rate, it's obviously a big statement, especially also for a guard at that size. It's not always easy to pass over the tall trees, especially driving towards the paint. Keyshawn Murphy comes off the bench. He averages 12 and 7.5. But we're in a big matchup with Baylor, who's got some good players. VJ Edgecombe would be their quote-unquote best player. Most likely he's going to guard up against Josh Hubbard. This is a Scott Drew team that's won a national championship. Whether or not you want to say that was a fraudulent national championship because it was during a COVID March Madness run, that's up for you to decide. I think given how they beat that undefeated Gonzaga team, I think it's fair to say that they were a very, very good team. Baylor isn't a team that's beaten a lot of good Big 12 talent. They don't have any wins over Houston, Arizona, Texas Tech, or Iowa State. Their only notable Big 12 win is over Kansas.
Yep.
Which Kansas kind of lost to everybody. So this is a coin flip matchup. Obviously, our heart's going to be in this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, any thoughts on the Bulldogs and Bears?
Yeah. Two things I just want to add on. I mean, you broke it down pretty well. Your thumbs on the pulse of Mississippi State basketball pretty well. I wonder why. The VJ Edgecombe Josh Hubbard matchup, assuming VJ Edgecombe guards Josh Hubbard, and I have no idea why he wouldn't. It'd be almost coaching malpractice to not. But I mean, Edgecombe is just such a good point of attack defender. Very athletic, very quick. It's gonna be very fun to watch. I think that almost is the game right there in a lot of ways. I mean, there's definitely other factors. The fact that Jeremy Roach is on this Baylor team and it feels like we've heard nothing about him.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true because he doesn't even really start anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Only averages 10 points. He's 10-2 and 3 on the season. Only shooting 38% from the field. So kind of strange that that's where he's at in his career now. What if he can find some juice in March and reestablish his name? But yeah, I mean, this should be a great game. I'm really excited for it. In terms of Mississippi State, it's kind of Josh Hubbard or bust.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, State's shown that it can't really create consistently with Josh Hubbard not on the floor. So if he finds himself in foul trouble or something like that, or Edgecombe shuts him down even a little bit, it could get a little rough for State.
Yeah, State's going to rely on, if they're going to make a run in this tournament, obviously they're going to need Hubbard to score, and they're going to need Keyshawn Murphy to play very well.
And Claudel.
But
someone's got to step up.
Like I was saying, or I was going to say, yes, I agree. You need someone of the Claudio Harris, R.J. Melendez, Riley Kugel, even Nwoko. One of them has to give you 10 points. Claudio Harris, in games where he scores 10 points, the Bulldogs are, I believe, 15-1, if not undefeated. In games where he doesn't, obviously, we've lost a ton. So I think Claudio Harris is a big piece in that. He's got to shoot the ball well and shoot it with a lot of confidence. Because when he's shooting with confidence, he's shown throughout a ton of big games that he can hit big threes in big spots.
Doesn't like to hit the open ones, though. It's got to be a little contested.
Evidently, yes. R.J. Melendez is going to be a big factor. And obviously, we don't have to go deep into Riley Kugel, but he needs to be playing. I think defensively, if he plays well, we're in a good spot. If we get any offense from him, that would be awesome. Sanders, you got a pick here?
I mean, so my pick is going to be the out-of-conference Mississippi State Bulldogs. I think that's one thing. Here's the thing, is our two best games are against Memphis and Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Pitt wasn't very good, though. So
this is true.
Well, they were at the time.
They were
ranked at
sure,
the time.
sure.
Memphis has turned out to be better. They're pretty good. And I think we've kind of forgotten in the last 2 to 3 months just how crazy the SEC is. I mean, there are probably 14 SEC teams.
14 out of 16.
Yeah. I mean, there are probably 14 SEC teams that I'd rather play Baylor than those 14 SEC teams.
Sure.
The only ones I maybe South Carolina and Georgia are the only two I'd be like I'd rather play them.
I'd rather play LSU as well.
That's fair. So South Carolina and LSU. So I think we're gonna get into this game, and I'm really hoping that we kind of go, oh, it's like you get out of the hurricane into like the calm waters. You get out of the storm. You're like, oh, this is what it's like not in the SEC. It's like we're playing the 7th best Big 12 team. That's a lot easier than the 7th best SEC team. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to pick Mississippi State here for doing picks.
Cool.
Sure.
That's fair. I get what you're saying. I do feel like a lot of it could be confidence is potentially shot in some players after a long, tough stretch of SEC play. So it's not really that easy to flip the switch and be like, oh, it's not the grind of the SEC anymore. You know, maybe this team isn't as good. But also Baylor's still a very talented team. I'm going to go Baylor here just to be devil's advocate. I'm fairly aware that State's going to move on, but I'm a huge VJ
Are they
Edgecombe
making
guy.
the Sweet 16?
I'd take him top 5 in the NBA draft. I'm excited to get to watch him in March. He's come along. The shot and scoring has come a long way since the start of the season, and that's something we need to see. But that, along with his good perimeter defense.
Give me the Bulldogs.
Shocker.
Hail State.
And the crowd goes
Hail
wild.
State.
All right, that'll give us our next matchup between Oregon and Liberty. Big travel discrepancy here as well. This game being played in Seattle.
Huge for the Ducks.
Yeah, it's going to help Oregon a ton. Liberty
The
will have
flame looks like it might die.
a ways to travel. But Vegas thinks this is a close game, and as a 12-5, it's actually it's not the Colorado State game that we saw earlier. Liberty is only a 6.5-point dog against this Oregon Ducks team. This is an Oregon team that has some impressive wins this year. They've beaten Wisconsin, they've beaten Maryland, they've beaten Bama at a neutral site. Liberty's won some good games as well. They've beaten McNeese, a team that we played that's another 12 seed. And they ended up winning the Conference USA and will face the Ducks. Jack?
Yeah. Just refresh. Is this a 5-12?
5-12.
Cool. Thank you. Oregon definitely has some big wins this season. It is a team I look at on paper and I don't really love in terms of the players they have. Jackson Shellstad can get his. He's their best bucket getter. Nathan Biddle is pretty good down low, especially defensively. But I'm not sure how I feel about them, honestly. They've been a little inconsistent this year. Some kind of strange losses to go with their big wins. And then looking at the Liberty side of things, they don't give up a ton of points. Their shooting splits are 49-39 and 66, so obviously free throw shooting is an issue. But they can light it up from deep. They have this guy named Tayland Peter, who is averaging 59, 46, and 77 as a small guard, which is pretty nuts efficiency for that.
That is crazy.
So I definitely agree with kind of the line that this is an intriguing matchup and not the easiest draw for Oregon.
Yeah, I really was not expecting it to be this close. I mean, Oregon they've had, like you said, some pretty good wins out of conference against A&M and a couple other teams, and made a run or played pretty well in the Big Ten tournament, won 8 of their last 9. So it's just, I was really expecting this to kind of be like a shoe-in, and now hearing about Liberty, I'm kind of like, oh, well, this might actually be an interesting game. But yeah, I mean, where is Liberty? East Coast?
Lynchburg, Virginia, I believe.
Correct.
As a Charlottesville, Virginia resident, I believe it's there.
Yes. Another thing is this is going to be another timing
I was
one.
about to ask, what was the tip-off time for
This game is tipping off at 10:10 Eastern.
Yeah.
So for Oregon, that's going to be 7 o'clock. That's just a prime time game for them. Liberty,
They're
another
going to be
game.
playing till midnight.
Yeah, another game you have to get up and get your spirits up. Also, a thing like they're playing Friday at 10:10, so they are like the last game of the first round. So
Yeah.
you have to sit there for hours and days waiting to play your game. I think that could do. I don't think that's going to be very helpful and very conducive for Liberty. So in my opinion, I'm taking Oregon and Ducks here.
Yeah. I was going to go Liberty. And then I remembered that Dana Altman is coaching the Oregon Ducks and has consistently had good success in March as a coach. And so I think that is going to make me lean Oregon here. Sanders, what do you got? I know obviously it's a done deal.
Got
but
Oregon favored by 5.5, so What was the initial spread?
6.5.
See, I'm telling you, I just now need to see if they actually are right.
Yeah.
So my lines are close. I just need to see.
Some of them are close.
Some of them are close. Some of them are just
a
ahead of their time.
Stat I have here is under Dana Altman, Oregon has won at least one game every time they've made the tournament, and have made the second weekend 7 of 8 times, which is wildly impressive.
Ducks. That'll give us. They will play the winner of either Akron or Arizona. Arizona is favored by 13.5. Arizona, of course, led by Caleb Love. And then Akron led by the two Johnsons, Nate Johnson and Tavari Johnson, who average 14 and 13 a game, respectively. This is an Arizona team that made it to the Big 12 title game. Were in it with Houston and then just didn't capitalize down the last 3 minutes. But this is a team that's got some decent wins. They beat Texas Tech twice. They beat Iowa State. They lost to Duke out of conference. Akron is a team that doesn't have any wins over tournament teams, and they also have some losses against teams. Like they lost to Yale and they lost to Princeton. But Akron is a team that people really, really like. They shoot the ball very, very well. I just question if they're gonna. They also another traveling thing here. This game is also being played in Seattle, so advantage Arizona. Akron a big flight. It won't have the timing thing. Jack, any thoughts on the Wildcats and the Zips?
Yeah, I like Akron. Reasons you said, they're a good scoring team, shoot the ball well. They play very fast, which I don't know. I feel like in theory, I like that they play fast. But going up against better competition, I feel like a lot of times that doesn't actually really benefit them, especially with how big and long Arizona is and physical. That I think Arizona may just be able to absorb that, and just kind of roll with it. Kind of like swatting away a fly. That's a little harsh. Sorry, Akron. So I don't know. Arizona's a good team. They have good players. Kylan Boswell, Caleb Love. The meme is which Caleb Love you get. So we'll find that out. But yeah, I don't know how to feel about this matchup.
Yeah. I think Caleb Love has been responsible for one of my favorite moments of college basketball this season. That was the half court shot. So the tweets and the Twitter after that was iconic, and some of it, people were like putting it to different songs and stuff. So just for that, I'm really hoping for maybe another moment we get like that where I can go back into Twitter and see some more highlights and stuff. So I'm really leaning towards Arizona here. Just that's more of a hope. That's what I hope happens. And I mean, they're the higher seed, and I also have them favored. So it's what I expect will happen, but I want it more for the aesthetic and the stuff that comes after.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Akron here solely because we don't really have tons of upsets yet, and something's going to happen that we don't necessarily expect. So this is more of a gut pick for me than a brain pick.
Great minds think alike, because I was going to say nearly the exact same thing. Give me the Zips. Sanders veto?
No, this is not my veto.
All right.
Bro, I'm screwed. A&M's screwed. They're getting headhunted out here.
I think it.
Frick. All right, that'll give us a matchup
my
between
dark horses.
VCU, right? We go VCU here?
VCU and BYU. Dark horse BYU. You got the 2-3 letters. Virginia Commonwealth and Brigham Young, the Rams and the Cougars. BYU has done a good job bouncing back, or at least, I guess not bouncing back, but continuing momentum after Mark Pope left for Kentucky. This team was a dark horse to win the Big 12, but they have good wins over Arizona. They've beaten Iowa State twice. Their kind of problem is they didn't compete with Houston at all. They lost by 20-plus points both times against Houston. So not necessarily a team that can compete with the best of the best. Rams have obviously, we all know of the big run to the Final Four with this team a way long time ago with Shaka Smart. Correct?
It was with Shaka Smart. The one time Shaka Smart's done anything in March.
Yes, correct. Got any thoughts on the Rams and the Cougars, Jack?
Yeah, it's another contrast of styles game. BYU's a high-octane offense, and VCU wants to slow the game down, and they play really good defense. One thing that stuck out to me is VCU's 30th in KenPom, which is pretty high for mid-major. When I was doing my research on them, I expect them to be in the 60s to
Higher than
50s.
Mississippi State.
But yeah, they're way up there. They play good defense. Max Shulga, I believe is his name, a good player there. BYU, is really hot right now. And they have a very deep team. So it's gonna be a tough task for VCU, but I'm intrigued here. Sanders, what do you have on your darlings, your dark horse, BYU?
Yeah, so apparently, well, we'll get to that later. I'm just going to say the same stuff about BYU I said for the Big 12 championship is they were going into the Big 12 tournament on a 7-game win streak, and then they won 2 games in the Big 12 tournament, and then lost to Houston, not competing, but VCU's not Houston. And so you disagree, JP. I think it's really interesting. I want to go BYU here, and then my model has VCU, and so
Wow.
now I'm kind of torn. Like I don't know whether to go with my dark horses or to like. I think I'm gonna have to stick with the model here and go VCU and hope that it pans out.
Cool. I'm gonna go VCU here as well. I don't know. I just the reason is the way Houston kind of slowed down BYU, and obviously Houston has more talent than VCU. But I'm just wondering if VCU can do the same thing and give BYU the same issues that Houston did. So give me VCU.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams as well. Clean sweep for the Rams.
Here come the upsets.
Yeah, apparently we got back-to-back.
Wisconsin and Montana. The Grizzlies and the Badgers. Wisconsin is favored by 16.5. Wisconsin made a run to the Big Ten title game before losing to Michigan earlier this afternoon. Still this afternoon. We still got 23 minutes before.
True.
It's not this afternoon. Montana ended up winning their conference, the Big Sky. Wisconsin has notable wins over Purdue, Michigan State, in the semifinal game for the Big Ten. They have a win over Arizona, a win over Illinois. Montana has played some tournament teams. In fact, they've played 3. They've played Oregon, Tennessee, and Utah State. They have lost those games by about an average of 28-plus points.
Brutal.
So not necessarily a team that can compete with the big guys. I'm not going to talk too much here. I kind of feel where I feel right now. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I'm also not going to talk too much here. This Wisconsin team is very good. John Tonje is a bucket, very physical guard. John Blackwell is also a good complementary piece outside. And then, Stephen Crowell and Nolan Winter get it done inside. I'm not worried about it here, but I talked about it in the last episode a little bit. It's just Wisconsin playing great basketball. John Tonje is playing great. It's like Big Ten Player of the Year. John Tonje takes a step back in efficiency and scoring a little bit, has a little bit of a slide. The team does the same. We saw it again in the tournament. He drops 32. Bang, they beat Michigan State in a great game. He struggles a little bit. They lose to Michigan the next game. So he's definitely a player to keep an eye on. I think he's I'm trying to think how to put this. Wisconsin is one of the teams that is the most dependent on their best player, I guess is how I'd put it. Not necessarily the most like a Creighton or maybe a Marquette, but they're up there.
Yeah, you can kind of see that when you look at their points per game. He is by far, in a way, the highest scorer on the team. But I don't really think it's going to matter against this Montana team. So, yeah, I'm going to have to stick with Wisconsin, your Big Ten favorites and Big Ten runner-ups.
Yeah, almost got it done. I'm going to go with Wisconsin as well.
I got the Badgers as well. All right, that'll give us St. Mary's, Sanders' favorite team.
I'm kicking it off here.
Go ahead, man.
Because I have a bone to pick with St. Mary's. I have it in my notes here that they are every basketball boomer's fantasy. Very slow, 357th in the nation in pace. A good rebounding team, I will say. They defend well. Not a great offensive team. But yeah, every boomer's fantasy, they play slow, they defend, they run tons of sets, they don't take a ton of threes, they like the inside game. They're just not a very athletic team either. The best players are Augustus Marcialonis.
Nice.
Possibly incorrect.
That was pretty close.
I'll I'll say it's right. A great floor general type point guard can score some too. And then Mitchell Saxon down low, the pick and roll partner for Augustus. They just don't win in March.
Mm-hmm.
They play well in the Mountain West. No, sorry, the West Coast Conference. I mean, they did beat Gonzaga a couple times this year, but time then they get to the tournament. They've not reached the second weekend of the tournament since the 60s. So I've been burned by this team before, and I'm sick of it. I don't know if I'll ever pick this team again until they actually prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I really didn't talk about the matchup at all. I apologize.
No, that's
but
fine.
you know, I just get on my soapbox there.
Yeah, St. Mary's beat Gonzaga twice before losing to them in the WCC championship. This is a team that is beaten. They beat Eric Musselman and USC by 35 points.
Goodness.
In the out of conference. But yeah, I agree with this is every boomer's dream. Just a bunch of white guys playing hoops.
Facts.
Vanderbilt's a 4.5 point dog here. This game's played in Cleveland, Ohio, so not really a far flight for St. Mary's, I would say, coming from the West Coast.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just don't really win in March. I lean one way, Sanders. What do you think?
Yeah, I am just gonna have to disagree. You said St. Mary's just doesn't perform in March, Jack.
Yeah.
We've both said that on the record.
Sorry, I was doing my research on the spot, just kind of looking at how much. I kind of forgot how much I do love my model of St. Mary's. They've got them as 14th in the country.
Crazy. I mean, that is gross.
I really don't know where it's coming from. I have to go back and look, but
they win. They win the games they're supposed to.
They win the games they're supposed to, and they have beat good teams in Gonzaga and, well,
just Gonzaga.
And Gonzaga got their get back in a very gross title game in the West Coast Conference.
Yeah, that was true. But I do think that St. Mary's is going to get it done. I've got them favored by 7.5. The ESPN has them by 4.5. So I think I'm really interested to see how it plays out. But yeah, I'm gonna have to stick with Jack's old man's. What did you call it?
Fantasy.
Old man's fantasy. Yep.
I'm taking the Doors.
Give me the Doors as well.
Jason Edwards and the boys. I think their athleticism could overwhelm St. Mary's.
Veto, Sanders?
It's up there. When we get to the end, I'll reflect and I'll decide.
Crazy. All right, that'll give us the Tide and the Robert Morris Colonials.
Roll Tide, sadly.
Yeah, Tide are favored by 22.5. At the pace that they play, with the amount of shooting that they do and how they shoot, this is not really a team that could get upset. Obviously, Grand Canyon gave him a scare last year, but Grand Canyon also had a...
Grand Canyon is better than Robert Morris.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, we had some technical difficulties. Our recording stopped. We're not entirely sure where it cut off. So just to summarize our last pick, we all have Alabama beating Robert Morris, and we're going to move on into our last region.
Yes.
Keep us rolling, JP.
Midwest, we have Houston, SIUE, SIU Edwardsville, the Cougars, and the Cougars. This is Edwardsville, the Cougars. This is their first time ever in the NCAA tournament, and I'm not talking about Houston. Houston this is their third straight 1 seed. SIUE gets the, I guess you would say unfortunate. You could probably use an even bigger word. Houston is a minus 50,000 money line favored by 28.5. We've talked extensively about how good Houston is. 2 of us picked Houston to win the Big 12, and we're correct in that pick. I don't want to talk too much about this. Just give me the Cougars over the Cougars. Jack?
Yeah, I don't think Houston's the best 1 seed, but I think they're the least likely to get upset by the 16 seed. They're just so consistent. So Houston.
I'm also going to go Houston, and for the sake of time, because during our technical difficulties, we surpassed the midnight mark. It is now 12:03 a.m. We are not done with the first round.
This is March.
Yeah, this is madness.
Is March.
So we're all going Houston.
Yes.
All right, that will bring on Gonzaga and Georgia, and we just had a Cougar versus Cougar matchup, and now we have a Bulldog versus Bulldog matchup in the 8-9 game. This is out of the 8-9 games, this is the least likely to be a coin flip. Gonzaga is favored by 6.5. Georgia led by a top prospect for the NBA draft, Asa Noel and Silas Demery. They had a decent season in the SEC. They didn't really have any marquee wins. They did beat Florida late, and they were the cock of the walk, right?
They were the cock of the walk. They had a huge week that they really needed to get into the tournament. And I'll take it from there. But Georgia is a team I'm not crazy high on. Asa Newell is a decent pro prospect. I'm still not sold on him as a pro.
Kyle Korver and Landry Fields were in Nashville scouting him, GM and assistant GM of the Hawks. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel like he'd be a little too passive offensively at times, at least when I've watched. If they want to do anything, they're going to need him to, take control. Silas Demery has come along late in the season and played really good basketball, shot it really well, stepped up and scored when they need it. But Gonzaga, let's flip to Gonzaga. They do not lose in the first weekend. I cannot find it, but I think it's 9 straight Sweet 16s.
That's correct.
And KenPom loves them. They're 9th in KenPom, despite being a lower seed than they typically are. Ryan Nimhard is a great point guard, leads the nation in assists. So a tough draw for Georgia here. Sanders, what do you got?
Yeah. Just kind of looking back at Georgia's schedule, it's not great. I mean, they barely made it in. They're the 9 seed, but it did take a pretty big win over Florida. But it's just a pretty unimpressive schedule, I would say. I'm not super impressed by it. And whereas Gonzaga, like you said, they do not lose in the first weekend. And I just kind of remember like growing up in that era of, I feel like Gonzaga dominance. I mean, maybe the mid 2010s, right? Like I feel like Gonzaga was good in the mid 2010s. Maybe I'm tripping. But
They've been good.
I mean, they've made 9 straight Sweet 16s. So
yeah. Is it 9 straight Sweet 16s or 9 straight if they're in the tournament?
It's 9 straight Sweet
9 straight Sweet 16.
Okay, so that would go back to 2016.
16.
So that's
yeah.
mid 2010s. So I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And Drew Timme is not on the team anymore, right?
No, he is not. He's in the G League.
I just wanted to
for
clarify.
Detroit, maybe.
Detroit or Milwaukee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in spite of that, I'm still gonna have to go with Gonzaga.
I have Gonzaga as well. It's hard to pick against their consistency in March, especially against a team like Georgia that I think is one of the weaker 8-9s. No disrespect to them, but it's just a really rough draw.
Yeah, Gonzaga was the team I least wanted State to have to match up with in the first round, given Mark Few and their dominance. And, they're 9th in KenPom as an 8 seed. That's extremely impressive. Maybe one of us will pick them to beat Houston, but I'm going to go with the Bulldogs to beat the Bulldogs as well. Give me Gonzaga. Then it'll bring on Clemson and McNeese. McNeese was the team last year that we were told was guaranteed to win and upset. And then they get matched up with the Gonzaga, and they just got plummeled. It was just not a good look for the Cowboys. This year they came back, had a pretty good season. The Dogs beat them earlier this year in Tupelo. And they will match up against, in my opinion, another bad matchup, the Clemson Tigers. The Tigers are a very, very good team. They're the only team in the ACC that beat Duke. They're led by Chase Hunter, who's been there for he's in his sixth season. Ian Shefflin, the big man. They just have a really, really good team. And I have a ticket on them for plus 10,000 to win the national championship. We'll hope that turns out well. Out of all the metrics, they check off, I believe, 9 out of the 10 metrics needed for all the teams that could win the championship based on historical data. This is a really good Clemson team. McNeese is a really good team, and they have a chance for an upset here. They're only underdogs by 7.5, but I wonder if this is another bad matchup.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason I picked Clemson to win the ACC. The experience they have leading him, and Chase Hunter, a six-year guy, six-year guy with the COVID year and an injury red shirt, and then starting 4 years. So he started 5 years. averaging 18 points a game, somewhere in there.
16 this season.
16 this
Yeah.
season. So there's a reason Clemson is a very good basketball team, and still one of the only ACC team to beat Duke.
Correct.
So I mean, I feel pretty good about Clemson going into this matchup.
Yeah, I mean I like McNeese State. Will Wade's a great coach, but Clemson is really
Oh, I forgot he coaches there.
Mhm.
yeah.
Ooh. Okay, keep
We'll
going.
see down the line if that affects your pick. But
Ooh.
I mean, Clemson's a crazy experience. They got good players up and down. I like the Shefflin and Victor Locken kind of big man combo. Shefflin's ability to create out of the post is a nice dynamic for this team. The only thing I have, kind of pinpoint is they have 0 wins against tournament teams away from home.
Sure.
So not necessarily the best road team. Will that factor in here? It's a neutral site, not quite the same, but something to keep an eye on. Yeah, I don't know. The one thing is Chase Hunter going to keep on taking bad crunch time shots. I remember the Georgia Tech game. He fell in love with the step back 3 and was like, just get to the hole. I feel like a boomer saying that, but they were deep three. I don't know, just something to keep an eye on. I got Clemson though.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Tigers as well. Sanders.
Yeah, given my vote doesn't matter, I'm also going to go with Clemson.
I mean,
Cool.
You have a veto.
You do have a
available.
veto.
No. That's my ACC favorite. I'm not going to vote against my ACC favorite.
All right, that'll give us Purdue and High Point, the Panthers and the Boilermakers. Purdue finally without Zach Edey. They're led by Braden Smith, who is just having a terrific season, 16 points a game, 9 assists a game. They also have Trey Kaufman-Wren, who's averaging 20 a game and 6 rebounds. This is a really, really good Purdue team. The problem with Purdue, though, is they kind of been cold as of late. They don't really have any big wins since early January, where they destroyed Michigan. Since then, they lost to Michigan, they lost to Wisconsin, they lost to Michigan State, and they lost to Illinois. But this is a team that has beaten Alabama. They beat Maryland early on in Big Ten play. This is a good team. Of the 4 13 matches, I believe this is the one with the closest spread. Purdue's only favored by 8.5 against High Point. Jack, you got any thoughts on the Panthers and the Boilermakers?
Not tons on High Point, but Purdue shoots the ball really efficiently. They're top 20 in field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. I think Braden Smith is the best point guard in the country. And Trey Kaufman-Wren is shooting 61% from the floor down low. The only thing to note is, they're a good rebounding team too, but it's Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Wren. It's kind of those 3 guys, and it's a huge steep drop-off, in my opinion, to the next group. So it's just a heavy load for them to carry, and I wonder if that'll come back to bite them at some point. Sanders, what do you got?
Does High Point? I feel like I saw a tweet. Do they have the longest active winning streak in the NCAA right now? Is
I
that right?
can neither confirm nor deny.
It was 29-5, so maybe.
They're on a 14-game win streak.
Okay,
I feel like I saw something
that's
about
impressive.
about them having the longest win streak.
People are high on them. I know that. This is
That's why I thought it was too. I knew they were. I've seen everyone talking about it. I can't remember why.
I don't know if that's why, but I've seen a lot of people being like, before the tournament came out, that they
They're
liked
the
them
dude,
to.
the look, right? Whatever, the mean mug. That was High Point.
That was High Point.
Correct.
So High Point had a crazy conference tournament final game where they were down big. They put their bench guys in, just normal rotations, and then their bench guys took off in the second half, and they basically didn't take them out till the end of the game because they were just cruising. Not something you see very often at all, but the mean mug was iconic. It was terrifying.
I was actually. I think his chin was sticking out like 8 inches from his neck.
It was nuts. I wish we could show all the picture. I have they shoot 49% from the field, so a good shooting team. They score 82.2 points a game. I don't know. I don't really know where I stand on this one, to be honest.
My model has Purdue, but I'm gonna go with the mean mug. I'm gonna go with High Point.
I'm going to go with Purdue.
Oh,
I think the 3 talented players in Laura, Smith, and Kaufman is just going to be too much for the Panthers of High Point.
yeah. I really want to go for High Point. From the game I saw, they were playing really well. I do think they're a pretty good team. But that's a very experienced trio you just mentioned for Purdue. And I trust Braden Smith to lead this team to a win here.
All right.
All right,
Purdue it
Boilermakers is. That'll give us Illinois, and then the winner of Texas and Xavier, horns down. So we'll obviously pick Xavier there.
I agree.
Obviously.
Shout out Trey Johnson though.
Yeah,
great
Trey
shooter.
Johnson's got a good chance. Illinois is one of those teams that I
Do
really
we act? Are we just picking Xavier because we don't like Texas, or because? Do we want to talk about that at all? Hypothetically,
You will not see me picking Texas to win a game here.
yeah, but like hypothetically,
I don't.
I feel like Trey Johnson's gonna carry that.
Xavier's been pretty hot of late, I will say.
Okay.
They did what they needed to get into the tournament, minus win quad one games.
Yeah.
Apparently, it doesn't matter this year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're picking Xavier because Texas sucks. But
Okay.
I'm-
We can
that's
move
just
on with
me.
that. I should not have asked another question to add to our time.
No,
We're-
you're
good,
good.
man.
You're good. It's a long show regardless at this point, so
This is
I'm gonna
true.
spoil a little bit. I think I'd pick Illinois to beat either of these teams.
I'm
That's fair.
picking Illinois as well, and I'll give a breakdown for Illinois in the next game.
Bet.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Cool.
'Cause I'm not picking either of these teams over.
That'll give us Kentucky and Troy, and out of the 3 versus 14 matchups, this is the one that's closest in terms of spread. Kentucky is only favored by 10.5 points. Kentucky is led by Otega Owe. He averages 16
Dog.
points a game. He's an exceptional player. They did lose Jackson Robinson, their second leading scorer for the season.
Former Aggie legend Jackson Robinson, I like to point out.
Correct. Kentucky is a team that they can compete with teams, but they can also just be destroyed by teams. This is a team that's beaten Duke. They're one of the few to do that. They beat Gonzaga by 1 in the out-of-conference. They lost to Bama 3 times. They couldn't really compete with Bama, losing most of those games by double figures. They've beaten Tennessee twice, though. And they have a loss to Auburn. And then Troy is the Troy Trojans coming to this game. They have played some tournament teams. Their notable matchups are with Arkansas, Oregon, and Houston. And in those matchups, they lost those games on average by about 20 points. So not necessarily a team that can compete with the big guys, specifically Houston. And Oregon, who we think is good. And at the time, Arkansas was a very, very good team when they were healthy with Thiero and Fland and Davis and Jonas Adu. Wildcats and Trojans, thoughts, Jack?
Yeah, Kentucky is a great offensive team. Scores everywhere. You said away. We got word that Lamont Butler will be healthy for the tournament, which is big. He's
That
kind of
is
their
big.
floor general, their point guard.
What's he averaging points per game? Do you have that?
Yeah, he's averaging 12,
Okay.
12, 3, and 4 in the season, shooting 49% from the floor and 36% from 3. Kobe Brea is a great shooter on their team. The issue is the defense. They're 55th in Kim Palm defensive rating, which just isn't really going to cut it. It's the reason they've lost some games. They have some big wins, but they also have some losses that are a little lackluster to some good but not great teams. Yeah, I don't really know. I do. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. I have Kentucky winning this game. I think the offense will just be too much for Troy.
I'm going to have to agree. I think I do agree with Vegas that of the 4 versus 13s, 3 versus 14s, this is probably going to be the closest out of them, unless Iowa State is just bad in their game. But I think Kentucky will prevail here. Mark Pope is the head coach now, not John Calipari.
Very true.
I think the March struggles might stop for them. So give me the Wildcats. Sanders?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to third that vote for Kentucky. I was tempted to go with Troy just because Otega, what's his name, Owe is not playing Oklahoma. I'm still just like blown away from our last episode talking about like the parallels, but he's still a very good player. And Kentucky's a very good team, and they're just gonna, I think, out talent and outscore. Like you said, the offense of Kentucky is gonna be too much for Troy to hang with. So I really don't see Troy being able to keep up with them. And with Calipari gone and the March struggles theoretically gone, I do think Kentucky's gonna pull this one off.
All right, we'll move on to the UCLA Bruins and the Utah State Aggies. Utah State had a really good year this season. They were one of those teams that's kind of been really, really good from the start of the season all the way through.
Had up at number 10 in the model in
Yep.
January.
They were big in the pecking
Congrats,
order.
Sanders.
Nick Cronin has led UCLA back to the dance. This is a team that's played in some big matchups. This is a UCLA team. They're in the Big Ten now, so they played some Big Ten teams. But they have a win over Arizona. They beat Gonzaga. They beat Michigan State. But they didn't really finish well in the Big Ten. I believe they were 11th in the Big Ten, if I'm not mistaken. Do I have that wrong entirely?
We'll fact check.
I might have that wrong entirely. But this is a team that didn't necessarily play well in the Big Ten. But I do think this is a problem for them was they just don't have a guy who's just going to go out there and score a ton of points for them.
Agreed.
Jack Bruins.
Yeah, actually, love that last point you made. I have it here that
I've
I'm
got
not.
it 4th
Okay.
in the Big Ten.
Oh,
Terrible point by me.
well,
Continue.
All right.
I do maybe not the best point for me there. I do like the last point you made. I feel like they're limited a little offensively, and that limits them in the tournament in my eyes. They're a great defensive team, 15th in KenPom defensive rating. They also operate at a 0.4, 0.6 turnover margin, which is really high and very good. Love to see that. But I just don't know how in love I am with this team just overall. Not necessarily from a number standpoint, but just kind of from an eye test standpoint. So, yeah, I don't know. Utah State is a team that a lot of people are very high on. They got good guard play. In Martinez is kind of their top dog. They shoot the ball very efficiently. And they have a couple big wins against tournament teams. They beat St. Mary's. Well, a lot of teams, should do that if you're in the tournament. But they won at San Diego State, and they beat Colorado State. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty good matchup. I don't love the draw for UCLA, but also I'm just not as high on UCLA, so I don't think I would have loved the draw no matter who they got, to be honest.
Yeah, interesting travel in terms of this game is played in Lexington. It'll be in Rupp Arena.
Oh, shoot.
So both of these teams
Gotta
have to
haul.
travel all the way east. But timing wise, it's 9:25 Eastern, so 6:25 for them.
No issue there.
So no issue timing wise, but a long flight. Sanders, Aggies, Bruins.
Yeah, I don't really see anything impressive offensively from UCLA, and I've been high on Utah State all season, so I'm gonna have to stick with Utah State here.
I'm going to go Utah State as well. Just will add Mick Cronin does kind of know how to get it done in March, so that's something to keep an eye on. But
I
Yep.
played a dynasty with Utah State in NCAA Football 25, so they have a soft spot in my heart. So I'm good with the Aggies as well. That'll leave us to our final first round matchup.
we've made it.
Tennessee and Wofford. Terriers and Volunteers. Tennessee is favored by 18.5. Tennessee is a very, in my opinion, a very special team. They have 4 guards that are just extremely efficient. They can play both ways, defensively and offensively. We've seen big games from each of them on both ends of the floor. They're led by Chaz Lanier. He averages 18 a game. Zakai Ziegler, who's been playing there for 10 years. Meshack and Gainey are the other 2 guards that I'm mentioning. They're all 4 of them. Ziegler not big in size, but he makes up for it and his speed and playing well defensively. But the other 3 are 6'5", 6'6" guards, but they're big and they are strong and they can match up with really any guard in the country, which is a big reason that they gave State trouble in that matchup when the Dogs went up to Knoxville. And this is a team they've beaten Auburn. They beat Auburn in the SEC tournament. They've beaten Bama. And they've beaten Florida by 20 points at Florida. Apologize. It was in Knoxville. But so this is a team that's beaten the cream of the crop in the SEC. One would argue they are the cream of the crop of the SEC, give or take. So
They're up there.
I think Volunteers shouldn't have a problem with Wofford. I think this is a really good team. The only problem with them is, of course, they're coached by Rick Barnes. So
0 Final Fours for Rick Barnes, which is hard to make a Final Four. I get that. But still, he's had some good teams. Kind of surprised he's not found one at least. Yeah,
Admiral
I mean,
Schofield, that team, Admiral Schofield and
Grant Williams.
I'm going to make them both.
one of my
Iconic
one of my
moment.
favorite basketball teams of all time. Just
Yeah, they
because
were.
the name Admiral, like, oh,
That's
that,
a crazy name for
that
sure.
team was sick.
Number 1 in defensive rating in Ken Palm.
Mhm.
Hold teams to shooting only 38% from the floor. I think they just play a style of basketball that is they're not going to get upset.
Mhm.
They may struggle to match some team scoring later on if their defense can't clamp down, but I don't think they'll really struggle that much with Wofford.
Yeah, I think Zakai Ziegler is one of the most talented players in college basketball. I think if you gave him, he's listed at
5'9".
5'9".
I don't know if I go with one of the most talented, to be honest. He's one of the smartest.
I guess the reason I say most talented is if I as far as watching basketball go, I fear him. I fear playing him more than I fear playing most players.
Sure.
I can get behind that.
And so I guess when I say talent, I look at that and I'm like, I am terrified of playing you, and you're 5'9". You have to be insanely talented for that to be the case.
Yeah.
And so it could also be smart. Another thing I say is if you gave him my height, I'm like 6 foot, maybe 6'1", he would be in the NBA right now. Like, he would not be playing his 4th or 5th year of college basketball.
That's probably true.
So yeah, Zakai Ziegler and Tennessee are not going to struggle at all against this Wofford team.
Cool. Before we get on to the second round, y'all quickly, if y'all want to use your veto, now's the time.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Neither of y'all have used yours. Sanders, we will start with yours because I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, I'm going to be vetoing. I want the Yale-Michigan rematch.
All right.
Or not rematch, but
my Aggies get screwed over due to Sanders' personal vendetta, I guess. Not too salty about it.
crazy.
If Yale beats A&M, I'm just going to look at it with the mindset of that may be the last time I have to watch Buzz Williams coach for A&M.
there's
And
no. That's,
I hope Indiana hires
that's
him.
ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
We're
not firing
Yeah,
him.
you're not firing.
No,
him, but
there's
he
no
might
way.
get
I
hired
just hope
away.
he leaves.
Okay, that's fair. I thought you were saying you're
No.
gonna fire him.
Oh,
Like,
no.
that is absurd. Okay, that's valid.
JP, do you have one? I feel like you got a lot of your picks in already. Like, did you
I'm-
really get trumped that much?
I don't think I got trumped once.
Yeah,
I went through them all. I don't think I got trumped once. I guess the only one that I made like a debate for was Alabama State to beat Auburn. But I'm
That would be a wild veto.
It is your veto, though.
I'm not gonna veto that. I'm looking through them again. I wanted to see if there was something else I would potentially pick, but no, I think I'm good on my veto
All right.
Cool.
personally.
And no vetoes for the round of 32.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so that'll get us back up to the top left with the South region, Auburn and Creighton, Kalkbrenner versus Janai Broom. And this should be a very interesting matchup. Will this be the moment I pick Auburn to be upset? We'll see. Let's start with Jack.
Yeah. Once again, love Creighton. I just don't love this matchup for Creighton. I think Auburn's going to have the ability to stifle Kalkbrenner, make things hard for him. And then outside of that, Creighton just doesn't match up with the rest of Auburn's players and Auburn's athleticism and size. So I have Auburn here, sadly.
Yeah. The way I look at it is I called Auburn losing the SEC tournament due to exhaustion. I don't know much about the matchup, but I will say this. When Auburn is coming out of that hard-fought win against Alabama State by 3, like 68-65, they're going to be worn out, and they're losing to Creighton.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm gonna have to lean with Auburn here. I think although Janai Broom I think he's better.
Certified
I
bum.
think he's better than Kalkbrenner. I don't think he'll find too much difficulty scoring on Kalkbrenner. I think the big thing, Creighton could win this game. They just don't have enough. Kalkbrenner just didn't have enough help. I just don't see a guy that, besides maybe Ashworth, stepping up and scoring a bunch of points. And now we have seen Auburn struggles a little bit offensively recently. They haven't really been scoring even in the 70s. So this could be a matchup that could be won in the 60s. So
Yeah.
it could favor Creighton. But then I look at the rest of the region. I'm like, who then am I going to put in the Final Four? And I just don't know if I see a team that's worthy of it as much as Auburn. This is one of those regions where I think we're going to see a lot of upset picks. I'm curious if we'll see upsets, but give me the Tigers.
I like it.
All right, that'll give us after the veto controversial from Sanders, the rematch, not rematch, but a matchup between Danny Wolf and his former team, the Yale Bulldogs, Wolverines, and Bulldogs. This is a matchup that now that Yale doesn't have Danny Wolf, how are they going to match up with Danny Wolf and Golden? I really question that. And like I talked about earlier, Michigan is a team that I feel like is a little underseeded and disrespected as the Big Ten champion. So I kind of lean towards Michigan here. Any thoughts, boys?
Yeah, I like Michigan too. I think it'll be a good game. Yale's a good team out of the Ivy League, and Michigan definitely has kind of a couple weaknesses. But as long as they don't, turn the ball over like a crazy amount, which they do sometimes, I think the size that Michigan has, as well as like Trey Donaldson, it's just they're gonna get it done and keep it rolling.
Sanders?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think Yale is gonna. When I said I picked Yale to make it out of the first round, I did not pick them to go any farther.
That's fair.
All right, Michigan it is. That'll lead us with San Diego State and Iowa State. Thoughts here, boys?
Yeah. Think about what you said, where the first 4 team has made it to the second weekend. Past how many years would you say?
I think it's 8 years. Let me look.
Past 8 years. Okay. Makes me want to go SDSU. I think they have the defense to do it. I think they'll find themselves in a game that they like in terms of pace. Keyshawn Gilbert and other injuries for Iowa State makes me a little worried. So I think I lean San Diego State to make an upset here and find themselves in the second weekend.
JP, you want to go? Or are you busy?
I'm busy.
Okay. I'll go ahead and go, and it's going to make JP's vote irrelevant. I'm also going to go San Diego State, and it's not necessarily because I'm high on San Diego State, but it's just out of the same fears Jack has. I've just been low on Iowa State for probably a month and a half now. Probably since the start of conference play. I have not been the biggest fan of Iowa State. Not praying in their downfall necessarily, but just not impressed. And yeah, I mean, I if we're gonna have someone from the first 4 make it into the second weekend, I think it's gonna be San Diego State.
The official stat is since 2011, only once.
Wow.
Has a team in the first 4 not won one game. So it has nothing to do with the Sweet 16.
Gotcha. Okay.
But y'all have already picked San Diego State, and I don't disagree with y'all's analysis here, but I'm going to pick the Cyclones.
Fair.
Even though it doesn't matter.
There's your first.
Yeah.
Let the record show we will be going and changing our bracket if UNC finds their way to beat San Diego State.
Definitely. If UNC finds a way to beat San Diego State, I would take the Rebels, and then I might be taking the Rebels for the Sweet 16.
I think I have to agree there.
I would agree, yeah.
All right, that'll give us Marquette and Michigan State, Shaka Smart and Tom Izzo, Cam Jones and Jaden Akins. We got a very fun matchup. These are 2 big brands in college basketball and have been for a long time. This is a Michigan State team that, like I'd said previously, came in the year not really highly thought of. They've since gone on and had the best record in the Big Ten in terms of standings, and then would lose in the semifinals to Wisconsin. And they'll have to play Cam Jones and Marquette. I know we talked badly of Marquette earlier, so I believe we're going to probably lean towards the Spartans. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have the Spartans. A couple things I'm looking at here. They shoot the free throws well, so in a closer game, they should be able to win at the line. And then plus 9.3 rebounding margin is pretty high. I don't think that Marquette's going to have enough to win this game. I think a game that Michigan State loses is a team that's shoots the 3 ball really well, to be honest. And they're just not going to be able to keep up, and that's not Marquette. So give me the Spartans, please.
Yeah, they call it the month of Izzo and not the month of Shaka Smart, so I will be going with Michigan State.
All right. That'll give us our next matchup, which is Florida and UConn. This will be
very interesting.
Highly televised. Definitely probably one of the most watched second-round matchups. Florida and UConn. Very interesting matchup. Solo ball, Walter Clayton. Florida, probably the hottest team in the country. A lot of people are saying that in the past 2 months they're the best team in the country, and they have the wins to back that up. Won the SEC tournament. They destroyed Auburn at Auburn, and we've obviously talked about UConn in a negative light. I don't think there's going to be any disagreement here with the Gators.
Yeah, Florida. I don't think the UConn's defense is going to be able to provide much resistance to what what Florida is doing offensively right now. Not very many teams will be able to provide resistance, and definitely not UConn.
We may find out no one can provide resistance, but
We may.
we'll see. Yeah, no. Florida is the hottest team in college football.
College basketball.
College basketball. I'm sorry. It's.
Far from
I
football.
apologize for it being
You're chill.
12:30 in the morning.
Excuses. Wow. Crazy.
Fourth quarter.
Did I say earlier on podcast that I was at work at 8 a.m. and
Excuses. Wow.
it is
Crazy.
now
That was off the record. Now
okay?
on the record.
16 hours later, we're still cooking. Yeah, they are the best team in college basketball. Florida is the hottest team, at least for sure. So UConn is not stopping them.
All right, Florida Gators advance. We got the Colorado State Rams and the Maryland Terrapins. I think very highly of Maryland. That's why I picked them to win the Big Ten. Obviously, 5 players to score over 12 points a game, led by Derek Queen. I don't see any problem for Maryland here. I think they're easily the best team in this little four-team cluster. I just see them advancing.
I also give me the Crab 5. Colorado State was my veto pick, so I thought going crazy and just being like let them keep winning.
Sure.
But this Maryland team's a ton of fun.
That's kind of tempting, though. We can't.
We can't what?
We got to be careful about
I'd-
picking.
We're not
Okay, we had
gonna
some
pick
upsets
against
up there.
Maryland
We had some
here.
upsets
I'm
up there.
sorry.
We're good.
I don't think this is the one.
We already have a double-digit
Yeah.
seed in the Sweet 16.
I'm just trying to preserve the integrity of having
Sure.
upsets.
Also, looking at the bracket holistically, I think this is a region that could very well go the most chalk out of all of them.
Definitely.
You could see maybe a Drake. We'll get there in a second, but I like Maryland here.
Okay. I would agree with that. The only part of me that wants to vote for Colorado State is the chaotic part, but I do think Maryland is a better basketball team, and I do think they're going to win.
We got an interesting one here.
Drake and Texas Tech. Since 2010, number 3 seeds are 15 and 12 against number 11 seeds.
Pretty close.
This is a matchup that is evidently a coin flip a lot of the time, but I think Jack talked extensively about Texas Tech earlier being a very, very good team, and I don't disagree with his analysis. I'm going to take, shout out CT, the Red Raiders.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, once again, I don't want to go too much into it again because I talked about it a bunch, but this team can just shoot the ball so well. And as long as that continues in March, they're going to find themselves pretty far into this tournament.
I disagree with y'all. At least my model does. So I will pick Drake. It will not matter, but I am picking
You want the record to
Drake.
stand.
I do want the
Or
record.
the record to show, I'm sorry. This is going
Alright.
to be a complete
Oh,
chalk.
I just accidentally. Well, I typed Drake in. There's
Oh,
no
yeah,
back
yeah.
now.
No,
it was an
no, no.
accident,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not reversible.
Sure.
I'll fix it. Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say, and I'm going to redact my statement from earlier, this is going to be the most televised and most watched matchup in the second round.
This is gonna be fire.
Arkansas and St. John's, Rick Pitino and John Calipari, the both legendary Kentucky coaches. The rivalry between Louisville and Kentucky. This is a matchup between coaches that is very substantial. But I'd also like to add that the players that are playing in this game are also a very good quality, and I think this is going to be an electric game. I'll give the stat on the since 2015, 2 seeds are 11-1 against 10 seeds. The only defeat was when Miami, the team that made the Final Four, upsetted Auburn.
Auburn's got some tough upsets these recent years.
Yes.
I think I like St. John's here. I don't know if I trust Arkansas's ability to withstand pressure, defensive pressure. I think they could end up being a team that ends up turning the ball over a lot and getting a little rattled. I think we've seen it at times this year. So I like St. John's to find themselves into the Sweet 16.
Who did you pick, JP?
I haven't picked yet, but I'm
okay.
going to go with likely St. John's. I think like we talked extensively about Kansas and Arkansas. Arkansas is one of those teams that on paper, they've got all this talent. They should be really, really good, and they were thought of that way to begin the season, but they just haven't been able to produce at that level. Starting in SEC play 0-5, I see St. John's kind of clamping down on the Razorbacks, and I see St. John's winning.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know that Calipari is going to be able to outcoach Pitino, and I don't think they're gonna. It's going to be a really great matchup of that high-powered Kentucky offense versus that St. John's defense. Very fun to watch. Arkansas. What did I say?
Kentucky.
Oh my!
But you're good. You're good.
No, it's completely
Kick
fair to say.
Calipari at Kentucky.
Yeah. We're good. The high-powered Arkansas offense. Yeah, it'll just and. Who is it that's injured at Arkansas? You said is coming back.
Adu Thierra. Well,
Boogie
Fland's
Fland's
coming back.
Thiero is doubtful to play in the first round, which means he's probably extremely questionable for the second round.
That's kind of what I was.
The team has played better without Boogie Fland, to be fair, but I think that's more indicative of other people figuring it out and not
Right.
necessarily like addition by subtraction. I don't.
That's kind of what I would assume in that situation. Is as time goes on, you're just going to develop more chemistry and become more comfortable with each other. So, regardless of that, Arkansas getting players back, I'm also going to go with St. John's.
All right. Next matchup. The matchup between the best player in college basketball and the second best player in college basketball, Cooper Flagg and Josh Hubbard, Duke and Mississippi State. This game is being played in Raleigh. BS, if you ask me.
I mean, they're a 1 seed. They're going to get their favorable site.
I mean, it's literally right down the road from their
Yeah,
campus.
it's going to be a home game for Duke.
I don't think the Dogs are going to travel very well to that game, besides the family and Miss Matthews, of course.
JP,
And
will you be there?
Mr. Hubbard, very unlikely. I would love to, but I this is probably gonna be an expensive ticket, especially with Duke in town. I'm gonna lean towards the best player in college basketball over the second best player in college basketball.
That makes sense.
This is just a bad matchup, I think, for State. If it was the team.
Because they're a good basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, one, they're the favorite to win the national title, but if this was maybe State's team of last year that could defend at a high level, you think that maybe they can hold up with Cooper Flagg and Conconopolis, but this is a team that doesn't defend at that high of a level, and they're versus a Duke team that's just bigger, longer, stronger, faster, all of those things. Like I talked about, I think either the first episode or second episode, it's just a bad matchup for State, a team that's bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic, all of those things. Naturally, of course, that's going to be a bad matchup, but for State specifically, it can sometimes be a very, very bad matchup.
Yeah.
I lean Blue Devils.
I got Duke as well. No disrespect to State. I think State's a pretty good team, but this may get ugly, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, Duke would make it ugly against a lot of teams.
I think that's the important takeaway is when we say it's a bad matchup, I don't think there's a lot of teams going into a game against Duke. You go, oh, this is a good matchup. I liked them here.
Yeah.
It's not going to be good. It's not going to be pretty, unfortunately. I expect. I guess I could. Let's go ahead and move on. I don't want to think about that one anymore.
Sure. Oregon, Ducks, Akron, Zips, and a second-round matchup. This matchup will also be played in Seattle, Washington. So, Akron will have already made the flight over and beaten Arizona, a team that Oregon played, correct? Do I have that wrong?
I got you.
Oregon and Arizona did not play. I've got a different matchup there.
Unlucky.
UCLA and Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Oregon and Akron, we thought highly of Oregon. Oregon's had a lot of success in March, so I'm gonna give them this win. Since 2001, 5 seeds have won 12 of the last 13 past meetings with a 13 seed. The only win, Bradley over Pittsburgh in 2008.
Shout out Bradley.
Let's go. I don't know what their mascot is, but I know
I think they're the
from
Braves. I'm pretty sure
New
the
York.
Bradley Braves.
I don't think you're wrong on that.
I'll go with Oregon as well. I know you mentioned that you're decently high on Oregon. I'm personally not the hugest fan, but I think they kind of find themselves in a pretty favorable path to a Sweet 16 here and take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna I don't think my vote doesn't matter, and also it doesn't matter because whoever wins is playing Duke next. But I'm also gonna pick.
Well, I think if Akron could find themselves in the Sweet 16, they're a pretty good matchup.
that is a good matchup for Akron.
I think they'd like their odds there.
That'll bring us our next matchup: the Rams and the Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin, one of the hottest teams in the country, led by John Tanji. Tanji? Tanjay.
Tanjay, yeah.
Tanjay. Wisconsin made it all the way to the Big Ten title game and then unfortunately lost to Michigan. Rams, we had upsetting the dark horse, BYU. Rams and Badgers. Thoughts, Sanders?
I really want to go with VCU here.
'Kay.
I don't know. It
is March.
It is March. It is. I mean, and also, I mean, they just beat one of the best teams in the country in my dark horse BYU.
Sure.
But I do really think this could be a fun game to watch. And Wisconsin, like you said, is one of the hottest teams in the country, making it to the Big Ten championship. But I don't know. It's just something about the Rams.
If Wisconsin were to lose this game, how would it happen, Jack?
I think it'd be a bad John Tanjay game,
Sure.
personally. He just isn't knocking down his threes, which can happen. And he's not really going to stop taking them just because he's not knocking them down, which confident player, that's what you want. But yeah, the Rams are going to have to find a way to limit him, find a way to keep him out of the lane. It's very hard to do. He's very physical. The best you can do sometimes is foul him. But that's where it starts, is finding a way to limit him, and then go from there. It's March, like I said, I'm gonna go VCU. Give me the Rams. Their defense is really good. They find a way to get it done. They hit some big shots and they find themselves in the Sweet 16.
Give me the Badgers by 45.
All right,
Record.
That is bold.
on the record by 45.
Yes.
So
All right, our next game will be an SEC game in the second round. That's kind of just speaks largely on the amount of dominance the SEC had.
yeah, we have Vandy over St. Mary's, Sanders, but it's all good.
I'm tripping?
Yeah, Vanderbilt beat St. Mary's. St. Mary's is bad,
That's
if you
tough.
don't recall.
That's tough.
Um,
I was about to pick St. Mary's to beat Bama, so that's really sad for me.
Vanderbilt and Alabama played once this season. Bama won by 16. They scored 103 points. Vandy
Goodness.
scored 87. Kind of ran them out of the building. But that's something that Alabama can do. Will this be a game that they don't do that? I don't think so. Give me the
No.
Tide.
No.
I got Bama. I think it'll be a repeat of the regular season matchup.
Sure.
Yeah, I think doing the same thing, if we do that again and expect a different outcome, is the definition of insanity. So
Sounds good with me. All right, now
Sweet 16.
let's redact my my statement. No, I'm not going to redact it again. But this is another one of those massive second round matchups. Houston and Gonzaga. Mark
Oh, we're not in
Few.
Sweet 16 yet. Awkward.
No, we're not in the Sweet 16 yet.
Got
and
too
Kelvin
excited.
Sampson, number 9th team in Kim Pom versus the number 3 team in Kim Pom. I mean, this in the second round is just insane to think about. Houston, a very, very good team, but Gonzaga, I mean, they're 9th in Kim Pom. They're not nothing. This would be interesting. I'd be very interested what the spread would be on this kind of game.
I think Houston ends Gonzaga's streak.
Okay.
They get the win. They advance to the Sweet 16. Keep the well-oiled machine chugging. This Houston team's just so hard to beat. Just elite defensive team. And this year they've had a couple shooters in the past, but I feel like they're more well-rounded scoring-wise. Milos Uzan, hopefully correct.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Has helped fill the production void left by Jamal Shedd, and I think he'll have a big game here and help the Cougars advance.
I'm going to go so that way Sanders has a dilemma.
oh gosh.
Give me Gonzaga and the Bulldogs. This is March. This would be all 4 1 seeds in the Sweet 16 if we picked Houston here.
Yeah.
So give me Gonzaga. I think, 9th ranked in Kim Pom. This is a team that can compete with Houston. They're the 9th best offense in the country. Now the thing that I think will be an interesting matchup is Gonzaga's they're 45th in pace and Houston is 360th.
Who's going to get their way?
Yeah, there's 364 teams in Division I basketball, so that's bottom 5. in terms of pace. It'll be a question of
or top 5, depending on the way you look at it.
true. Who's going to get their way? Give me Gonzaga and the Bulldogs. Sanders, pick wisely here.
Yeah, this is this is a tough one. It will just kind of come down to, I think it's interesting. So do we think Houston is the most likely to be upset out of the 1 seeds, or do they just run into the first bad
No,
matchup?
I think
Auburn is the most likely to get upset based on the way teams are playing right now.
But you think Gonzaga is a worse matchup for Houston than Creighton was for Auburn?
Gonzaga's a terrible
yeah.
draw.
Gonzaga's
it's tough.
ninth in Ken Palm. That's not nothing.
Yeah.
Creighton as a draw would be they're 37th in Ken Palm versus Auburn, who's 4th. Auburn in Ken Palm is now the 4th 1 seed, number 4 overall. So
I'm also gonna go with Gonzaga here. Gonzaga, whichever it is. Just for a little bit of chaos. I don't want all 4 1 seeds in, and there's 2 of them that I don't see losing. So we got to figure out how to start eliminating them.
Fair enough.
all right, we got a really, really good matchup. I'm gonna redact that. But this is a really, really good matchup. Clemson and Purdue, respectfully, is 2 teams that I think could make very deep runs in this tournament. And unfortunately for both of them, they have to face each other in the second round. Clemson has all the experience. They made a deep run to the Elite 8, and they had a chance to beat Bama. Grant Nelson goes off in the second half. My mother was at that game. I can attest. She saw it live out there in Los Angeles. And then Purdue, they're led by Braden Smith. Jack would say is the best point guard in the country. Sanders would say he's maybe second or third. Zakai Ziegler's the best point guard in the country, according to him. Trey Kaufman, 20 points a game. That's not nothing. I personally am gonna lean with my heart as a Tigers fan. Go Tigers. But this is a really, really good second round matchup.
Yeah, it really is. It's a true toss-up. I think this is one of the hardest for me to pick. I'll follow suit. JP, go with your Tigers. Partially because I like seeing a very sad Matt Painter. I'm not a huge Purdue guy, so give me the Tigers.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go Clemson here. ACC favorites.
For you.
Your ACC favorites.
Yeah, my ACC favorites. I mean, it was so close. No, I do think that this is gonna be a good game. I'm excited to see it. And hope that Chase Hunter can kind of win the battle of with that. What's the Purdue point guard's name?
Braden Smith.
Thank you. Is there another one?
They have Laura.
Fletcher Lawyer. More of a 2.
Yeah.
But another white guard. So.
Well, I think it'd be. It's fun to see another upset. 5/4. I feel like that's not as much of an upset.
Yeah, I don't know if I
big
classify
dark
it
horse.
as one.
The 5 seed's a big dark horse.
4 seeds.
They were the 4,
have
actually.
defeated 5 seeds 56% of the time.
Okay. Well, I will also be going Clemson, moving on to the Sweet 16.
All right. That will give us our next matchup of Illinois, my dark horse to win the Big Ten, and Kentucky. This is a really, really good matchup as well in the second round if we were to get it. Illinois is one of the most hot and cold teams in the country. They can score the basketball some nights, and some nights they just can't put the ball in the hoop. This is a good matchup. Kentucky, also a team that scores at a really, really high rate. They'll be without Jackson Robinson, obviously, but Tega Owe has shown that he scores 30 points in the Oklahoma game. He can carry the load. Again, Kentucky without Calipari. I wonder if that's going to be a new story that we will tell. I'm going to pick Illinois, though.
Yeah, I'll pick up next. I think I need to amend a mistake from earlier. I think I said Kylan Boswell was still on Arizona, just out of habit, but he's with Illinois now. He's been very good there, but I apologize. Yeah, I'm gonna go Illinois here too. I don't love the pick just because of how bipolar they are. Honestly, it's a game they easily could lose, but I trust their defense a little more than I trust Kentucky's. I think Tomislav Ivicic, Big Z's brother, is a good rim protector and is going to hold it down the middle and let Kasparis and the rest of the boys go to work. So,
I was going to pick Kentucky. I just think that the SEC means a lot more, and so a very good team in the SEC, I am going to tend to favor those teams going into March. But Illinois it is, moving on to the Sweet 16.
I'm glad you brought that up. I
Take it away,
think
JP.
the SEC meaning more take. I think I've talked about it a few times that, and I don't think I'm alone in this, that obviously the officiating in the SEC awful, just
Oh, boy.
absolutely terrible, and they were very chippy this season. Having watched a ton of SEC games, been in a lot of SEC games, unfortunately cursed out a few refs. Pat Adams, come on, man. I think we might get in the spot where, and this is shown with our bracket already. We only have 3 SEC teams in the Sweet 16. We'll have a chance to pick Tennessee here in a second. That I just don't think the SEC teams would fare well because of, I think the difference in officiating is going to be a big factor. Jack, any?
I agree with that. I think we've seen it in other years in past.
Yep.
So
You think that the soft whistle, would you say soft whistle in SEC?
Yeah,
is
and
gonna leave teams ill-prepared for more physical gameplay in the tournament?
I agree. Yes, although the SEC is a very, very physical conference and they could compete in a physical way, I think it'll be a big problem for a lot of the guards in the SEC.
Yeah, I agree.
They won't be able to get to the foul line as much as they did in SEC play, and I wonder if that's going to be a struggle for them. If they don't get those free points from free throws, do they get in a rhythm? Do they score at a high rate like they do in SEC play? I wonder if that's a prevailing story. Once again, our final round of 32 matchup: Utah State and Tennessee, Aggies and Volunteers. I talked big about Tennessee earlier. Just their guard play is really, really, really good. If they had Jonas Adu, this would be, one of my favorites to win the title. Of course, the big story here is their head coach is Rick Barnes. So, this is a toss-up here. Thoughts, boys?
This is a toss-up?
I don't really think it's much of a toss-up. Rick Barnes hater.
They do have Rick Barnes. That's why.
Rick Barnes makes anything in March a toss-up, but I do like Tennessee here. Good experience. Chaz Lanier's a bucket. Just kind of more the same. Good defender. Lock it in.
See, I'm going to go Utah State. I just love Utah State basketball, and I want to see them succeed. I want to be validated, I
Sure.
guess, in my takes, and so I'm rooting for all the teams that I was high on that I got hate for. I want to see them succeed, so I'll be picking Utah State.
Tennessee by 20.
You did that. That was a setup, JP. That was
And
a
slam dunk.
nasty.
Just
That was a nasty
Chaz
oop by
Lanier
the two
drops
of
the
you.
that was
Five.
no, it wasn't even an oop by the two of us. It was just a self oop from JP somehow.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
apparently off the backboard.
Apologies. Sweet 16, Auburn and Michigan. This matchup is going to be played in Birmingham, so big advantage for Auburn. In that case, in terms of geographical location, they're going to have a full stadium, more than likely. They're in Birmingham. But it's Auburn. They're the worst 1 seed, even though they got the number 1 overall seed in our they're the worst 1 seed in our opinion. They're the worst seed in KenPom. Most likely to be upset. I think good matchup for Michigan. Golden and Wolf, I think, won't have much of a problem with Janai Broom. And I think they're going to be actually successful. The problem for Auburn, I think, is going to be Michigan, 2 bigs. Who's going to guard the other big?
You have Dylan Cardwell.
True. I guess I didn't think about that. Then my counter would be Cardwell and Janai Broom on the court at the same time. I wonder if that's going to be a problem for them offensively.
Very well could be.
For Michigan, it's not a problem. Golden and Wolf play very, very well together. So I lean away. Where do you guys lean?
I'm leaning towards Michigan, especially if you're talking about, I guess, changing up a whole season-long rotation of Auburn's. I mean, if that's what you're talking about to stop Michigan.
Yeah.
Sure.
They could try like a Chad Baker-Mazara on someone like Danny Wolf. I mean, he gives up size, but
Yep.
Wolf does, spaces it out a little bit more. I don't know. It would be interesting to see what Auburn would do. I think I lean Auburn here a little bit. I think Michigan just runs out of steam. But I don't hate the Michigan pick at the same time. So that's where with y'all lean, I believe.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, you didn't? Did you not say?
I lean away.
All right. Well,
Hail to the victors.
I'll
Give me the Wolverines.
so my Auburn pick is obsolete.
Go Michigan.
All right, that'll give us San Diego State and Michigan State. Will we pick a Michigan State Elite Eight?
I think it's in the cards.
I'm gonna pick that.
It's
What do you
just
guys
too fun. Michigan State is going to end San Diego State's run.
Yep.
Izzo in March. I think teams that theoretically pose bad matchups to other teams and can be a little bit tricky, like a good defensive team like SDSU, Tom Izzo scoffs at and says, "Get out of my way." So
I mean, I'm down for that. It's no Michigan versus Yale matchup, but Michigan State's a pretty good story too, I guess.
I agree. All right, other Sweet 16 down in the West Regional, Florida and Maryland. This is a really, really good game. If there's any team I think that's going to give Florida a run, although Texas Tech and St. John's are very, very good, I think Maryland would give them has the best chance of giving Florida a run. I just wonder if Florida is too much of a superpower. Let me figure out where this region is being played. Go ahead, Jack.
yeah, I mean we've sung Florida's praises all podcast, all episode. They're humming right now. They don't really seem to have any issues. Maryland's been playing good basketball too, so I don't want to discredit them. But Florida's just kind of been a tier above these past couple weeks. With that being said, give me Maryland to get to the Sweet 16. To get to the Elite Eight. Stun Florida, make it happen. I believe in you.
I'll go next. No, that's insane. Florida is not losing to Maryland. Florida just waltzed through the SEC tournament, the hardest conference in college basketball, allegedly this last year. They're not losing to Maryland in this Sweet 16. They're not stopped. They're making it to the Final Four at least.
Well, I mean,
This will be played out in San Francisco. Maryland was my pick to win the Big Ten, so I kind of have my heart a little bit in Maryland. But Sanders makes a very interesting take.
Y'all making me nervous.
I mean, Maryland's a great team. Their starting five on the floor can compete with anyone else's starting five.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they all average over 10 points a game.
Over 12.
12, over 12, sorry.
Highest scoring starting five in the
Major
country.
difference. Yes. Florida's hot. Give me the Terrapins.
No.
Let's go. The Crab Five.
I think maybe this is the moment that they cool off. If I picked Florida, I was going to pick them to lose the next game, probably no matter what. I think this is a really, really good region in terms of the top four teams.
It is the only region that we had the top four seeds.
Yeah.
in.
I think it's the most chalk region.
We chalked it, and I think any of these four teams, if they were in the Final Four, would be really, really fun to watch in a Final Four game. So that gives us to our next matchup, Texas Tech and St. John's. This should be a very interesting matchup. Two red teams here, which is obviously a very important factor when you pick March Madness
Crucial.
games.
Well, I mean, the home and away advantage is just gone because the crowd is just full of all the fans. And
This
they
is
cheer for
also
the same
true.
team.
You'll have no clue who's cheering for who.
Exactly.
Yeah, where do we lean? St. John's, Texas Tech. This should be a good game.
I'll kick it off, continue my Texas Tech love affair, I guess. St. John's, great team, great defensive team. I just think Texas Tech can shoot the ball well enough to beat them. What's the best way to beat a tough defense is just knock down deep shots. And I think they'll hit enough to get a win here. I am interested to see what JT Toppin can do against St. John's defense, what kind of night he would have. But I like their guard play to get it done and get to the Elite Eight. Great season for St. John's, though.
Best way to stop a team that takes deep threes is to have the kind of defense that gets in their face and stops it. So
Yeah, I mean, that is true.
we have a very good shooting offense versus the best defense in the country. And my model favors St. John's. I will be sticking with that. We'll see how it goes. JP?
I agree with Jack here. I think the experience thing is gonna hurt.
Man, this is
Um,
what was it the other Was it conference picks that y'all were like 2v1 every?
We're either gonna we're dogging Sanders
It's
here.
not on purpose.
I
2v1,
know. I'm
but-
either about to cook and I'm
I
going
was
to
about to say,
hold it over
yeah,
y'all's
yeah.
heads.
You
for,
very well could just come back and lord it over us. So
I think experience is a big thing here. This is Rick Pitino's second year with St. John's. For a few of these players, it's his first year coaching them. Texas Tech has the experience. Coach has been there for a few years. But I think the big thing is Texas Tech just outshoots St. John's, even with their touted defense. I think St. John's will likely just come from a very, very close matchup in Arkansas and and themselves. And I think this is a bad matchup for St. John's. Texas Tech is a really, really good team, and a really, really good 3 seed. So give us shout out CT, go Red Raiders, and that'll give us our next matchup between Duke and Oregon, 2 big brands in just terms of collegiate sports.
You keep shouting out CT. Do you have any idea if he has listened to the show at all?
He will.
He will.
when he figures out, he shouted out.
If he gets this far in the episode too, I gotta
If
give him
anyone-
props.
If anyone,
shout out
is
anyone
this
still
far
watching,
into the
honestly.
episode, like I've listened to every we've made 2. I've listened to both podcasts we've made. I'm not listening to this.
That's crazy. That's disrespectful.
I think we're doing a great job diving in deep, and I think
Y'all are. I am struggling.
No. You're chill.
you're
The
chill, man.
caffeine from my root beer was not.
Look,
enough.
we'll speed this pick up. I got
No,
Duke
we
here.
can
Yeah,
go.
I got
Yeah.
Duke here.
Oregon's a fine team. I don't think they have the arms to compete with Duke. Not really anyone does, but they especially don't. I think yet again this may be another rough game. It may get ugly quick. We'll see.
Yeah, Sanders, you like Duke here?
Yeah, I'm picking Duke. Like I said, Duke. I had 2 teams that were not stopping until the Final Four, and one of them's already been stopped. So
Unlucky.
yeah, apparently upsets go crazy. in March.
They do. They
Um,
do.
Next matchup is VCU and Alabama. I think Alabama again just shoots really, really well. This game, the Duke Oregon game as well as these 2 games are being played up in New Jersey. So not really a bad match or bad for Oregon. No, Oregon played in Seattle. Never mind. But yeah, give me the Tide over VCU.
What you got, Sanders?
I'm picking VCU off of vibes. It's one of those things where it's like once they've got this far, I kind of just want to see them keep going.
It's fair. I got the Tide. Once again, I'm very interested to see about Grant Nelson's injury and what happens there. That could change things for me. But
Definitely.
they're a great team, and they just shoot the ball and score so well. I think it's going to overwhelm VCU a little bit.
Yeah, that may change in Wednesday's show. We'll see. All right, our final 2 Sweet 16 matchups. We got Gonzaga and Clemson, 8 seed, 5 seed. Let me give you the numbers on 8 seeds and 5 seeds. 8 seeds are 2-1 versus 5 seeds. This is all time. The last occurrence was in 2004 when Alabama defeated Syracuse. No, that was not the year Carmelo Anthony was at Syracuse. Gonzaga, Clemson. Good matchup here. This is a really good team in Gonzaga, top 10 KenPom, like we've said a million times. But Clemson, they check off a lot of metrics.
Yeah, I like Clemson's experience and veteran presence here in a game against Gonzaga that just has been here a million times. But I think I'm going to go Gonzaga here. I got a feeling riding them hard, maybe a big game. They just keep marching. I don't really even like Gonzaga, but they just get it done.
Also going Gonzaga.
Sorry about your Tigers.
Well, that's why you got to cash out before JP cash out.
When
you
Clemson
can't
does
do that.
win this game, it'll be because Gonzaga didn't play well. Bold take. There. I know, right?
Team loses because they don't play well.
Yeah.
Breaking.
But I think Mark Few is just cursed. So I just don't see him having. While they're really, really good, top 10 at KenPom, I'm not sure if this team has a ton of success in this tournament past the Sweet 16. Beating
Okay,
Houston.
Good finish there because you're
Yeah.
like not a ton of success. I was like, oh, just besides making the Sweet 16
For them, Sweet 16's like the benchmark. It's like
I-
it's the must.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
every year for 9 years. You said
Yeah.
now 10.
So I guess we're going with Gonzaga though.
Yeah, that's what I have.
But Clemson's winning that game for the record.
Yeah.
We'll circle back around, and I'll clown on JP when he's wrong there.
Okay, heard.
This is
Uh,
another fun matchup, honestly.
Yeah, a big matchup here. Two teams that are orange.
You don't get these kind of analytics anywhere else.
Illinois and Tennessee. Now pick which color of orange you like more. Personally, I would favor Illinois orange. What orange do you guys like more?
I also like the Illinois orange better. However, I like Tennessee to win this game.
Okay.
Man, I don't. Yeah. Now I'm sitting here with Rick Barnes in my Elite Eight, and that just feels so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But do I trust Illinois to play 3 straight good games? Give me Illinois. Screw it. Illinois, just freak, bro. They're gonna get hot. They're gonna find a way to win this game. Maybe we get like a Chaz Lanier disaster class, like 1 of 9 from 3 or something like that.
I have some like next level analytics for y'all. Okay, we have 2 quadrants, regions, where in our Sweet 16, 75% of the teams are the same color. We have this region with Clemson, Illinois, and Tennessee. And then we have the region with Maryland, Texas Tech, and St. John's.
Man, the red region and the
The
orange
orange
region.
region.
We got an all red Elite Eight right there. So
I mean, that is.
they have to swap my Clemson pick. Make sure that we get an all orange Elite Eight over here.
I mean, low key.
not gonna
No.
happen though.
Okay.
Not
Who
gonna
did y'all
happen.
pick? I was too busy
He
figuring out.
picked the Tennessee orange, although he likes Illinois orange more.
Yeah, I'm also.
No, I flipped it. I like Illinois to win this
Oh yeah,
game.
yeah, you're right. Sanders, what'd you pick?
I'm going. I think. Yeah, you took away my Utah State Sweet 16, so I'm gonna go back to Zakai Ziegler's the best point guard in the country and pick Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee wins this game.
I think that's
Sorry.
fair.
I think you make a really good point of can Illinois play 3 good games in a row? I wonder if they'll.
Can Rick Barnes find himself here?
True.
I think he's done it before. He has an Elite Eight under his belt.
I think he'll make it here, and then we're about to have a matchup between the curses
Yeah,
of Mark Few and Rick Barnes. That'll be really interesting. But I think a point on Illinois is we wonder, will they play 3 good games? I wonder, will they even play 1 good game?
I mean, if they get their bad game first, it's over for them.
If they get a matchup with Texas, I think there's a chance they could lose that game. And so give me Tennessee so we don't put Illinois way too far. All right, now we got a really, really fun Elite Eight, in my opinion.
Must-see TV.
Perhaps we picked big brands a little bit too much, but that's up for debate. These are not necessarily big college basketball brands. Michigan State, the first matchup, a rematch. Michigan State defeated Michigan twice already this season, in very, 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 very similar matchups. Michigan scored 62 points in both of those games. Michigan State scored 79 and 75 in those 2 games. So very, very similar matchups from a scoring perspective. Michigan State, Tom Izzo, Dusty May with Michigan. Big rivalry here. Their college basketball games are always really, really fun. Crowds are always really, really electric. Will the 2 crowds make the trip down to Birmingham? That's up.
They would.
I think they would. Yeah, I think we got a
for an
very
Elite
interesting
8, yeah, I
matchup.
feel like they would.
I mean, this really would be a blessing if we got this matchup in the Elite Eight. I'd have to lean the Spartans based on how the in-season matchups have gone. I think this is a game where Michigan's turnover problems could really rear its head and knock them out of this tournament. But, I mean, it'd be a great run to find the Elite Eight in Dusty May's first year. But give me
Yes.
Tom Izzo's Spartans, please.
I don't think you beat a team 3 times in the same year. Yeah, I think that's really hard to do. I'm gonna pick the Wolverines here. Go Big Blue. But it's very difficult to beat a team 3 times. In this, I'm trying to think. Did that happen already in the SEC?
Bama beat Kentucky 3 times, I'm pretty sure.
Bama
Really?
took it to
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're the outlier.
I mean, I do like that logic. Like, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, but there's just a world where
It is doable.
the team's
It
just
is
a
absolutely
bad matchup for you, and you're just not going to beat them. And I think that could be the case here. But what do you got? You're the tiebreaker here, JP.
I was going to make that point, Sanders. So I'm going to make a different point. It's hard.
And completely change his vote 2-on-1.
No, I'm going to say it's hard to beat. Sorry. it's hard to lose to a team 3 times. Give me the Wolverines to defeat Michigan
Go big
State.
blue, baby.
And be our first team in the Final Four. Our next Elite Eight matchup is Maryland after a controversial upset of Florida and Texas
Very
Tech.
controversial. I want my veto back.
You wasted it on a Texas A&M veto, so
Yeah.
congrats.
we got
Worth it. Worth it.
Terrapins and Red Raiders. Shout out CT. A matchup between red teams. Another one after the Texas Tech St. John's matchup. 2 really, really fun and talented teams. I'm going to go ahead and say it again. Maryland, 5 guys to score 12 points or more. I've said that a few times.
Out of the 364 teams in college basketball, do they have the most players with averaging 12 or more points?
Yeah, they have as Jack has said numerous times, the highest scoring starting 5 in the country.
Out of the 364 teams.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
But no, I'm actually not going to make my pick. Someone go.
Yeah, I feel like a broken record being like, this is another good matchup, this is another good matchup, but this would be fun.
It is March Madness.
It is
Kinda
March
what we
Madness.
expect.
Yeah, you kind of hope to get through these late rounds, and there's a lot of good matchups on the table.
Except for Duke. There's no good matchups for Duke.
Well, we may get there at some point. We'll have to figure that one out.
We threw away Duke versus Florida in the championship.
I mean, I don't know what you talk about threw away.
March.
Maryland beat them fair and square
This
on
is true.
paper in 2v1.
We could have had.
And I like Maryland to keep it going. give me the Terrapins in College Park. Derek Queen, the boys, keep it rolling. Find themselves in the Final Four. I don't know. I got a good feeling about this squad.
Sanders? Or do you want me to go?
I'll go.
Okay.
You pick Maryland.
Yeah. He's going to go Texas Tech because he's mad about Maryland beating Florida.
I think here's the logic. Maryland is exhausted after that. They just beat the best, hottest team in the
Well,
country.
they beat Florida by 25 and put their backups in, so it really wasn't that hard
My
of a
bad,
game.
I forgot to check.
Yeah.
True.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Did I miss something?
No,
No, that was just really good,
That
Jack.
was
That was really good.
I was not ready for that. Well, but you forgot that 4 of Maryland's 5 players scoring 12 points got hurt. So
Oh.
Texas Tech gets the win. Yeah, you missed that part in
My
the
bad.
injury report.
Yeah. I got to do more
Yeah,
research.
valid points here. Give me the Terrapins. Come on now.
Let's go.
My favorite to win the Big Ten. They're going to get a rematch with Michigan in the Final Four, which we'll talk about here.
Man,
in a
we're
second.
putting all the storylines out here.
We need a clock back here. It is 1:15. I feel so bad.
Dude,
we're
I'm
chilling.
falling. We're good.
We're
I
basically
just-
we're in the
there.
home
Yeah, we're
stretch.
basically
I know.
there.
I don't want people are gonna be watching this at like 3 in the afternoon and be like, "What is this dude on?"
We're chilling.
All right.
March.
It's March.
All right. Very, 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 very
Duke,
good matchup.
Duke.
Yeah, give me the Blue Devils. The Tide have a puncher's chance here.
I agree.
There's a chance Chris Youngblood could pretend he's playing Mississippi State
True.
and shoot 70% from 3.
Yep.
There's a chance Holloway could just score 30 points. Sears, even though he's not good, could score 30 points.
He'd get 25 from the free throw line.
Yeah, Grant Nelson could easily score 20 points. They got a lot of guys who could come into this game and win this for the Tide. But yeah, Duke's winning this game. Duke's the best team in the country. I don't think there's any debate there.
We have a hand raised on the left side of the set.
Yeah,
maybe,
there's-
maybe someone might disagree with that, but I got Duke here. Are you going
Man,
to
if only they
disagree?
hadn't lost
Are you
by
going to
20.
pick the Tide here?
No, I was saying if only
Okay.
they hadn't lost by 25, we have another team that was better than Duke. But
Fair.
I still don't know.
Shouldn't
How
have lost
Maryland,
by
I don't know how
25.
Maryland beat them with 4 players hurt.
That was a big game for them.
I mean, a miracle, honestly.
Man,
March.
that half court buzzer beater to win by 25
Yeah.
at the buzzer, yeah, it's crazy. I'm also picking Duke. You say like Alabama has all these players that could score 25. They're going to. Like Cooper Flagg and Con Kneppel, one of them is going to drop 25 or 30 points.
Yeah, I just trust Duke to get more late game stops than I trust Alabama.
My
to.
biggest question for Bama is who's going to stop Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
They don't really have a single guy that matches up with him
for sure.
defensively.
Actually, though, like, are you putting Grant Nelson on him and just like saying a prayer? But then who's on Come On Maliwak?
Exactly.
Maliwak down low, like
exactly.
down
Who's
low.
On the, who's on the big? I mean, Cooper Flag, I think, is
It's just not a good matchup for Alabama.
he right now is just the college basketball version of Kevin Durant. Like he's just too good from in all of these aspects, and he can dribble it like a guard. You put a guard on him, he's going to shoot over that guard. You put a big on him, he's going to get past you and dunk on you.
Yeah.
Give me Cooper Flag and Duke.
Yep.
So now we have the.
This is so gross, guys.
We just have so many great storylines in this entire bracket. We have the Battle of the Curses, Mark Few, and Rick Barnes, Tennessee. Rick Barnes, of course, has never made a Final Four. And Gonzaga with Mark Few has just never gotten over the hump. They had their best chance was when they played Baylor in that COVID tournament, and they got whopped. They lost to North Carolina in the national championship. This is a team that's made it there, but just not been able to finish. Rick Barnes hasn't made it there. Where are we leaning here, boys?
I think Rick Barnes finally makes it happen. As much as I don't like to say that, I honestly feel like we've given Gonzaga a little too much run, maybe. And putting them into the Final Four would be a little reckless of us. So I mean, Gonzaga is a very good team. Don't get me wrong, but I honestly think Tennessee. Rick Barnes got a great draw to make this happen for him. And at least end up in the Elite Eight with a chance to reach the Final Four. You know, he may end up playing Houston, and that's a really tough game. But I really like the path that they found themselves having, and they get it done, Final Four, and they can send Zakai Ziegler off into the sunset with a walker.
Yeah, I mean, Zakai Ziegler, best point guard in the country. But you're right. It is just going to, like I said, like coming out, they do have a very lucky draw. If assuming Gonzaga beats Houston, they kind of like stumbled into one of the best paths of a 2 seed I think we saw. And it would be kind of reckless to put Gonzaga in the Final Four. But give me Gonzaga. They're going to the Final Four.
Yeah. If the Tigers were here, I would pick the Tigers over Tennessee. But you're forcing me to pick between Tennessee and Gonzaga. Tennessee's better. They're 5th in the country in terms of KenPom. They're the best 2 seed. And I think they can handle Gonzaga here. So sorry, but great minds think alike. Jack and I are going to have to agree here. Take the Vols.
Yet again.
Who saw that one coming?
Nobody. Now we've got a Final Four.
We got to fix the graphic there.
Hold up. What? Oh, my bad. I forgot to put in. We picked Duke, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, there we go.
All right, now we got a very interesting Final Four. I think we did a good job here, fellas, in terms of picking a Final Four that's not very chalky, that has a little bit of fun and flair to it. We've got a rematch of the Thriller and the Big Ten semifinals.
That's crazy.
Between Michigan and Maryland. They, of course, played in that game. And then they also played earlier that season, or not earlier that season, but literally 2 weeks prior when Maryland won at Michigan by 6. Maryland lost by 1 to Michigan on that big buzzer beater. Big matchup here. Obviously, I'm really high on Maryland. Where are you guys leaning here?
We'll kick it to Sanders first.
Is this the third or fourth matchup between the two?
This would be the third.
So 1 regular season, 1 in the conference tournament, and then 1 here.
Yes.
They're 1-1?
Yes.
Yes.
Maryland's got 5 guys that are averaging over 12 points a game.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, that's well, actually, no, they're all out. I forgot. They got hurt.
In your scenario,
Yeah.
sure.
In your vision.
Yeah, in my vision.
Is Sanders a seer? We'll check back in 3 weeks.
Yeah, what kind of odds can I get on Maryland to make it to Final Four, injuring 4 of 5 starters in Elite Eight? I feel like I can get good odds for that.
What are the odds that you win the lottery back to back?
Yeah.
That's
probably about that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So,
what's your play? Your coach?
I'm picking Michigan.
Give me my Maryland Terrapins to keep it going. Find stuff in the championship game. Get revenge on the heartbreaker in the Big Ten tournament. I think they're a better team than Michigan, honestly, and they get it done here.
Yeah, I have to agree. Maryland's better than Michigan. They should have won that game. In the Big Ten semifinal, they just were in a bad spot, if they had a timeout, they're chilling there. They probably win that game easily. But, Derek Queen hits the free throw, and then we're in a scramble. And they decide to press for some reason, and Derek Queen's up in the press, and then you don't have your rim protection, and Michigan's able to escape with a victory there. Maryland's a better team. They have, in my opinion, the better winning at Michigan, instead of Michigan beating Maryland in the Big Ten semifinal. Give me the Terrapins to advance to the national championship game. And that'll leave us with Duke and Tennessee, Rick Barnes versus John Shire. Cooper Flagg versus the best point guard in the country, according to one of the people at this table, Zakai Ziegler. Big matchup between two big brands in college basketball, Tennessee and Duke, as opposed to Michigan and Maryland, not big brands in college basketball. Where are we leaning here? We got two really good teams. I'm gonna try to make a case for Tennessee, but
Yeah, I mean, you could make a case for Tennessee with how good their defense is, right? And they're not too shabby offensively. But as good as their defense is, I mean, Duke's is just as good, if not better. I like them. They can just match up with anyone defensively. It's really impressive. And Cooper Flagg brings it home, and Duke finds himself in the national championship.
Duke.
that's a good analysis. I'm gonna make a case for Tennessee here. If
I
Tennessee's
can't wait
gonna
to
win
hear
this
this.
game, obviously they're gonna need a big game from Chaz Lanier. I think if they were gonna match up, they're probably gonna put Meshack on Cooper Flagg.
I agree. That'd be really fun to watch.
That would be a really fun matchup to see. I think, Lanier's got to have a good game. I think the big key to the game is can Gainey have a good game? Because I think Kai Ziegler is not going to step down to a Final Four matchup. I expect Lanier to shoot well. He's got a form that I think would translate very well to the court that's just massive and the massive arena. Although they're playing in San Antonio, are they playing in the Spurs arena?
I
No
don't
way,
know.
right?
I'll check. You can.
Yeah, can you look that up? That's actually be a big point. If that's the case, then Duke probably all the way. But I think playing in the big football stadium, where the court, the depth perception is insane.
It's in the Alamo Dome.
Alamo Dome.
Okay, then yeah, I think Chaz Lanier, his shooting can translate to a court like that, which would favor Tennessee, of course. But yeah, Duke's too good. Give me Duke. So we got Duke and Maryland in the national title game. My Big Ten favorite, Jack's new favorite team. And
I don't know what you mean new. I've been a Maryland fan my whole life.
and a team Sanders very much
Resents.
dislikes because of a game that
He holds
would win.
grudges. What can you say?
Duke and Maryland.
I think we let Sanders start it off
yeah,
with this one
sure.
before we give our
Except-
decision here.
I'm scared. I don't know where y'all are going with this. Because in my brain, it's so clear that, okay, like, if it was Florida Duke, you'd have an argument. But I'm like, oh, Duke, clearly better than Maryland. And I'm going to pass it off, and y'all just going to be like, yeah, but give me the Crab 5. And I don't know what to do with this. I'm picking Duke. Duke is the best team in the country. They are going to walk their way through the tournament pretty easily until they're probably not going to face a challenge until they get, like, Elite 8. It's kind of what I expect. Don't smile like that. You're making me more nervous. There's no way y'all pick Maryland for this.
I do really like Duke, right? Duke is probably the best team in the country. I just said that they can match up with anyone.
This is
Probably
the
even
bit.
the
This is
Crab
the bit.
5,
Y'all figured this out beforehand. You're like, we're gonna pick the most absurd team. You
I
didn't
just-
even agree. You just said you'll know. When I start talking about the team, you'll know.
I have a feeling, right? It's just a hard feeling to pass up. The Crab 5 is something special, and they're going to find a way to get it done in San Antonio and be the national champion.
Good take, Jack. That's a really good take.
JP, it's up to you.
All right, to decide our first ever national championship or national champion in technical foul history, it's up to me. I'm gonna make the case for Maryland here, and then I'm gonna tell you who I think's actually gonna win the game.
Fair.
Maryland 28th in the country in terms of offensive for Kimpom. Big thing for them is they're 6th defensively. And I do think they have a matchup with Cooper Flagg, the second big man. What's his name?
Malawak?
Come on, Malawak.
Yes. No. Maryland.
Julian Reese.
Yeah, Julian Reese. I think he can match up in terms of size to Cooper Flagg. The big thing we have to remember with this Duke team is, once again, they're a bunch of freshmen. While they are super talented, Cooper Flagg's probably going to be the National Player of the Year. Actually, I think Janai Broom's going to get it, but he should be the National Player of the Year. You have to remember that these are a bunch of freshmen. Can we? I mean, Duke is not a team that they haven't won a national championship in a long time. The last national champion was with Jalil Okafor.
It was early 2010s, early mid 2010s.
Yeah.
20. They won 2015. Or was that the
I'll
year
check.
they
I
like
got you.
lost
Yeah,
in,
look
in
that one
burning
up.
fashion?
But yeah, we got to recall this is a team that's built with a bunch of freshmen. I think people at this table have been trying to discredit Maryland a ton. I do want to say that they're 12th in Kimpom. They are the highest rated 4 seed in Kimpom, and not to put everything on Kimpom, but I do think that speaks volumes. Maryland plays at a very, very fast pace, top 50 in the country. Duke plays at a slow pace.
Here's my question, JP.
Sure, go ahead.
Are we allowed to pick Maryland based on your metrics? You remember you were talking about it before the show. Are we allowed to pick Maryland?
The Crab 5 rises above trends in history.
They're above such things.
Yeah, we're allowed to pick Maryland.
No, we're not. You're kidding. No, we're not.
We're definitely. I mean, I don't know what you mean. We're allowed to pick whoever we want. I could pick
JP said
SIUE.
beforehand there is a list of statistical thresholds.
They check off one of the metrics, which is top 40 offensively and top 20 defensively.
Huge.
And obviously being top 10 defensively, they don't check off all the metrics.
They check out the most important one though.
And how
arguably.
many years in a row have these thresholds held good?
I want to say it's 16 to 17 years.
So you think Maryland might be Jack, you're saying you think Maryland is going to be
I just said they rise above history and trends.
We are over 3 hours in, JP. Would you like to declare our national champion?
Yeah, I'd love to. Give me
Drum roll, please. Come on.
give me the Maryland Terrapins.
Bang! Let's go.
I'm not putting that in the computer.
This is
No, you have to. Come
this is March. Like I was saying, bunch of freshmen. This is
Cooper Flag slip again.
Freshman who just won the ACC tournament.
wet court, potentially.
Yeah,
You're never mind.
San Antonio's got a lot of humidity.
a ton, man.
No, it doesn't.
Have you ever been?
Give me the Crab 5.
That's like Dude, it's California. They have wildfires because it's so dry out
San Antonio's in California.
the Maryland
in Texas.
Terrapins win the national title.
Brody just said San Antonio's in
there.
California.
Texas is dry too. Wait,
Depends on where.
I'm-
The
okay, I'm
ocean's
gonna
right
go put-
there.
I'm gonna put
A question
Maryland.
ESPN is asking: how many total points do we think is scored in the national title game?
147.
Metrics would both these teams score 82 points a game.
Oh shoot. But typically I feel like national title games are a little lower scoring. So 156.
Sanders?
I said 156. Like I said,
156 it is.
Sick. We're that in sync. Finally we're together on something.
I said 6.
Yeah, Maryland Terrapins win the national title. You heard it here first. To recap, Final Four was Michigan, Maryland, Duke, Tennessee. Maryland defeats Duke in the national title. Crab 5 win it all.
Bang. Well,
Any final thoughts?
not really. We're over 3 hours into the show. It's
I'm
been
glad
a long
March
time.
Madness only comes once a year.
So there's been a ton of fun. We're probably going to be very, very wrong.
Oh yeah, Maryland's losing the Grand Canyon first round.
Well, I was about to
so-
say, I don't think I've had a national championship get out of the first national champion pick get out of the first weekend since pre-COVID.
fair.
So we may be in for a rough one here, but
Yeah.
we'll check back in on it a couple times. And good luck on y'all's brackets, and
Yeah.
we'll see you in the next episode.
Oh, I was gonna
Oh.
say we don't know when the next episode. I was gonna just we're gonna this should come out Tuesday. Is the hope?
Hopefully.
Yeah, it should be out Tuesday morning, and then maybe tomorrow morning. I don't remember what she said. I think
Yeah.
I said tomorrow morning, but
one episode's coming out tomorrow morning.
we'll record again Wednesday.
This episode's coming out Tuesday morning. We'll record again Wednesday. Should come out Thursday. We're about to find a really nice rhythm, I think, to finish out the semester. But if you made it this far in the podcast, that's insane.
I mean, you're welcome
You-
for having the best breakdown and
I mean,
basketball team.
name
Didn't
one
make it this far.
other,
You missed the best moment in technical
name
foul
one
history.
other
Correctly.
sports media outlet that's picking Maryland over Duke to win the national championship.
3, 2, 1, I mean, you can't. There's just nobody.
No
I
one
mean,
out
yeah.
there is on it like we are.
Shout at us.
Yeah, I think we cooked something up here.
Well, you can't even say that. You didn't do any of the cooking. It was me and JP completely. You anti-cooked.
I mean, you had one veto, and then you decided to not pick Yale.
That veto made the bracket. What are you talking about?
Yeah, your veto made it to the round of 32.
Yeah.
Did I actually?
Give me Maryland here.
I wish that I had been writing down my picks because I think my picks were probably the minority,
Well,
like
you can reveal your bracket in Wednesday's show.
90% of the time.
And me and JP will
I'm
tell
not
you what's wrong
I'm
with
not
it.
complaining. Yeah,
We'll each do a bracket. Like we'll have a bracket there. and
they
we can,
they wanted to do individual
picks.
brackets, and I was like, guys, I don't know what the plan
we
is
should have done
there.
that. That would have been 9 hours. That'd been fun.
It'd been a blast. It wouldn't have been quite 9, but it would have added some time. For
Yeah.
sure.
It would have added so much time because then we would have gotten as soon as we got out of the.
But the
round-
first round matchups all stay the same, and that's what took us 2
That's
hours.
that's why we spent so much time on them, and I